This report is sponsored by Mothers Against Drunk Driving. The Padres are off today, but they start a weekend series in Boston tomorrow morning. It's going to be Michael King on the hill going against Sonny Gray. First pitch is set for 11:10 a.m. The Pittsburgh Pirates are calling up Connor Griffin, the number one overall prospect in all of baseball, ahead of their home opener against Baltimore tomorrow. At 19 years old, Griffin, who is expected to be their starting shortstop, would be the first teenage position player to debut since Juan Soto in 2018. We got Laker basketball tonight on San Diego Sports 760 when they take on OKC. Pregame coverage will begin at 6:15. We'll have the tip at 6:30. For victims of drunk and drugs driving, your grief is unique, but you're not alone. You always have a place at MAD. Call the 24-hour victim helpline at 877-MAD-HELP or visit mad.org.
It's Schaefer and Sliwa. John Schaefer.
When you think about the city of San Diego, some of the worst ownership groups with the Clippers situation, with the Chargers situation, even the Padres ownership history hasn't always been smooth sailing.
San Diego's own Alan Sliwa.
I felt like we went through a stage of baseball where everything was so predetermined. Why even have a manager? What's the point of having a manager?
Here's Schaefer and Sliwa.
All right, San Diego and Southern California, what's going on? This is Hour 1. Schaefer and Sliwa on this Thursday afternoon, and looking forward to catching up in 1 hour with Eric Pincus. Covers the NBA for Bleacher Report, and we've got a busy night in the association. We'll get into that in 1 hour. Padres, Alan, unlike us, the difference in the Padres and us today is the Padres are off. How soft is that? Here we are working, and what are they doing?
I requested. I tried to get a day off. I thought we had kind of similar schedules. That is not the case. But then again, they play Saturdays and Sundays, and we don't.
Can you imagine? Like, and we're gonna touch on the good, bad, and ugly. By the way, just off the top of the first week, because we're a week in. And to your point from the crossover there, we're not 6 months in. We're a week in, so we're gonna take some of this with a grain of salt. But and you've covered sports for a long, long time, like I have. But there really is nothing like the schedule / grind of baseball. Because even when they're off, they're traveling, right? They're off on the road. They're not off in San Diego. They're not always with their family. They're not in their homes when they're off. And that's the same in the NBA or the NHL or, even maybe sometimes with other sports. But, right, there's just nothing like it, Alan. They get there February 1st, essentially, pitchers and catchers, and they're together by and large daily until for some of these teams, the middle or end of October. Sometimes I feel like we work a lot. I know your schedule. I know my schedule, but I don't think it really compares to what some of these professional athletes, specifically baseball players, deal with on a day in, day out basis.
I guarantee you that you've done this, and I'm trying to think here when you do the wrap-up show. I don't know if there was a time you were doing every single game, but
only 2020, the 60-game year.
Okay. All right. But those that are doing 162 post games, I've done 82.
You've done 82, right? Yeah.
Done it on the official broadcast, do it on YouTube, everything else. 82, which let's, I don't want, and I'm sure there's some listeners out there saying, I hope you're not complaining about reacting to an NBA or an MLB game or something like that, which we're not, but we kind of are. 162, that's a lot of post games. That's a lot of post games. And some of the content too. I know there was a time where you got some of these markets. Depends on the market, but they'll do 2-hour pregame shows.
Yeah.
I'm like, wait a minute. So they just played 16 hours ago. What do you mean you got 2 hours of content? You got to do it in a pregame show. You're right about that. The baseball season is an absolute grind. The only good thing with baseball compared to all the other sports, the NBA, you are just going from one market to the other.
That's right.
So a lot of your time is just travel. But at least Major League Baseball, when you're in a city, you get to at least be in that city for 3 days.
No doubt. You set up shop.
Yeah.
So, okay, let's be honest. At 2-4, it's been more bad and ugly than good, especially coming off a homestand. They didn't play, for example, the Dodgers and the Yankees on the road their first 6 games. They played good teams. I think the Tigers are a very good team. The jury's completely out, obviously.
You're right about that. We don't know what the Giants are. Yep.
But so, why don't you start? We can kind of speak in generalities or we can hone in a little bit. But when you think about things that have gone well compared to the things that haven't gone well, how would you look at this, first 6 games the Padres have played this year?
I'd say, and I know you mentioned if we want to do one for each category, the good, the bad, and the ugly. I'll start with the good, because you and I are, we're just optimistic individuals, and that's all we are. It's just straight positivity.
Yes.
I'll start with the good, and I will tell you that it was really, really nice to see Michael King back and pitch the way he did, because he's such a critical piece to this team. And unfortunately, last year, a lot of times we talk about how Laureano wasn't available come postseason because of his injury. And maybe we forget that Michael King just never was Michael King. And, unfortunately, if he was healthy, what could it have been against the Cubbies, or what could have – I thought there was a little bit of relief. I know Pivetta didn't do his thing in the first game, but then in his second start, he looked great again. He looked like Nick Pivetta. So now if Nick Pivetta had 2 games in a row where he struggled, then that's a different conversation, but he didn't. I just thought it was nice to have Michael King back. And I know Randy Vasquez, you can say, is a very good thing too and a positive, but I think a lot of people are feeling great about Randy Vasquez anyways. For me, I would say the good is Michael King had a solid start in his first start back.
I like that because we're going to focus obviously a lot on the rotation throughout the course of the year. And you're right on Kings. I mean, he's so important. And if he's anything like the player we've seen like in 2024 or healthy in 2025, it's a huge piece. I would just say this. When we talk about good, I'll give you great. You're like, how is there anything great? They're 2-4. The thing that I'm most optimistic about is Mason Miller. This guy is so good that you can almost fancy him, I don't know, going the complete season and, hopefully having like a blown save or fewer. Like he might go through the whole year with and I'm hopeful. And maybe I'm jinxing it, but I see him as the type of player that with his stuff and as hard as he throws in that slider, he might go a whole year and preserve basically every lead. Hopefully something like that plays out. Like last year, Alan, with the Padres, short sample size.
Give him leads.
Yeah, you got to give him leads. Last year, had a sub-1 ERA. So I don't know if that's possible for a full year. But to your point, if they're going to hand the ball to him with a lead, which hopefully they're going to do a lot, I feel very confident that he's going to do his job. He's done it so far, and to me, he's beyond good. He's as good of a pitcher as maybe there is in the sport.
Well, let me ask you this, because we'll stay on Mason Miller for a second. If he does what you just mentioned and forget good, let's just say he's great.
Right.
Is that one of the least surprises of the team? Because
Yeah,
I think if a lot
definitely.
of people are looking at, the Padres and they're looking at Mason Miller, if Mason Miller is an absolute stud, dominates at his position, is the best closer in baseball, it's not going to churn heads.
Right. Completely agree.
So he also has this, he's just expected to. When he
100%.
comes in, everyone's just going to, expect, okay, this game is over. Who they play next? Now, the difficulty is going to be putting him in situations where he can close out games. I don't want to overreact. I'm just saying that if you're not having a good season, then Mason Miller is not as valuable as you need him to be. When you need Mason Miller to be at his best is when the Padres are at their best.
All right, let's transition for a moment to now. There's 2 more categories in good, bad, ugly, and we they're 2-4, so I think it's fair to spend time on both. Where would you go where it hasn't been good, but maybe it's not the worst thing on this team right now? So what's bad right now, 6 games in?
I would say, you got a chance to see your 4th and 5th day pitcher in the rotation in Buehler and Marquez.
Right.
And you had some curiosity there of could one of those two give you some promise? Now, in one start, I think clearly Walker Buehler had more potential, and we'll find out just over time what your 4th and 5th starter are going to be, especially with Musgrove out and seeing what the Padres do just over time. That to me would be the bad. It's not the ugly, but it's the bad. It's after you go through Pivetta, Michael King, and Randy Vasquez, you need some wins a little bit further down the line, and you need some starters that can give you some innings. So that to me, I would say is the bad, because those were 2 L's.
I'm going to switch up what I initially was going to say, and I'm not going to go ugly here, but I am going to go bad here, and it's Craig Stammen's first week. And I think that's fair. I think he would probably say the same thing. I really do. And I think he's kind of said some of it publicly, truthfully. But I bet if he looked himself in the mirror, he'd be like, I got some things to learn, which is completely natural.
And he said that. Part of him, to his credit, has said that.
Exactly. So, I think that it hasn't gone great. Whether it was that second game, they had a lead, they don't go to Mason Miller, or who was it he stuck with for forever the other day? Kyle Hart. Faced he went like 4 batters too long.
6th inning against the Giants.
When it was 4-3, and all of a sudden you look up, it's 8 or 9-3. And then this lineup thing where Randy Knorr is writing at his bench coach, which I'm fine with. And I appreciate.
Not everybody is.
Not everyone is. And we'll talk about that. So, I mean, to be fair, and I think it's completely reasonable. I think Craig Stammen has had a bad week that hopefully gets better heading into week 2.
The funny thing is no matter what he does, when you're a first-time manager, you are going to be critiqued. You're going to have a spotlight on you because there is no track record, and nobody knows how you're going to react to certain situations. I guarantee you this year, you and I are going to spend so much time talking about the manager, whether it's fair or it's not, because there's going to be a situation where we are going to give him some credit, and maybe it's not as loud as it should be. There's going to be a lot of situations where the Padres lose a game. A decision is made. Why did you put this guy in here? What are you putting this guy in left field for? How come you didn't DH that guy? And it's always going to go back to the manager. And it's the fact that he is a first-year manager. It's the fact that you're coming off 2 90-plus win seasons with Mike Schilt and 2 playoff appearances. It's going to be difficult. And this comes with the territory. It's okay. This isn't for him. I hope he doesn't care. I hope he doesn't pay attention to what anybody else says. Every personality is different, but he's going to be a really big topic for 6 months. He is. Whether, people are going to say this was the right hire or they're going to say it was the wrong hire. Either way, there's going to be a lot of conversation around him, and he's not managing a team that doesn't have expectations. Now, maybe the Padres aren't the World Series favorites, but they are definitely, at least in the city of San Diego, you're asking yourself, well, we're used to the postseason. 4 out of the last 6 years, they've been in the playoffs, and you could have great teams and still not make the postseason. We saw that with Juan Soto and obviously that squad. But he's going to be critiqued. It's going to be fun to watch kind of how he handles it, and it's fair. I mean, look at you. In the first 6 games, you're already saying, yeah, that's the bad part of what I saw in 6 games.
All right, so let's we have a couple of minutes here. Let's quickly touch on the ugly.
Okay.
Your thoughts on what has been the worst part of the first 6 games?
Is it possible for us to have a different ugly? Mine is more as a whole.
I think I know what you'll say as a whole. You're going to say the offense?
Yeah, the bats.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, they had a good game yesterday, but I'm sorry. This is too high of a payroll lineup.
Yeah.
That I need to see it from day one. Guys like Toddy, Manny, both haven't homered, right? So I'm with you. Collectively, the offense has been really disappointing.
Let me ask you, we were talking about Mason Miller. It's expected that he's going to have a great season. Are those bats, for you as the offense, are you expecting the offense to be really good this year? Because I have a lot of hesitation on that. Unfortunately I do, but I think a lot of these bats at times, they've been unreliable. I'm still kind of waiting to see, all right, what's Jackson Merrill going to be in his 3rd season? I think I got some questions there.
We're going to talk more about that on the other side. Plus, get your phone calls. Eric, stay where you are if you want to weigh in on this. The good, bad, and ugly for the Padres. Your thoughts on that? 877-767-4760. That's 877-767-4760. Eric Pincus, Bleacher Report on a big night in the NBA. He'll join us at 4. Plus great giveaways today on Schaefer and Sliwa, San Diego Sports 760, and live on the iHeartRadio app. All right, San Diego Sports 760. Got Eric Pincus Bleacher Report coming up at 4 p.m. We do want to remind you, SDFC back Saturday night. They'll be on the road taking on San Jose. Pre-game coverage at 7, right here in your home for SDFC, San Diego Sports 760. Let's go to the phone. Schaefer and Sliwa with you on this Thursday afternoon. Eric wants to weigh in on the Padres. 877-767-4760. And Eric, thanks for taking the time to call in. What's on your mind?
Hey, thanks again. Appreciate you guys taking the call. Want to touch on two quick things: the good, bad, and ugly. And then, but first is the 30 game. I think 30 games is a good gauge, a good sample size. You're hypothetically go through rotation 6 times. So that's just my take on that. As far as the good is we're only 6 games into the season, right?
Yes.
2 and 4.
There you go.
The bad, I would say, is we've lost 2 series at home, so that's pretty bad. And then I would say the ugly, obviously the offense, and Manny Machado doesn't have a single RBI. So that's just how I feel as 6 games in. Not concerning, but surprising.
Great call, Eric. Appreciate you weighing in.
The call.
It's interesting that I hadn't realized that. I hadn't really thought about it. Manny Machado I knew he hadn't homered, obviously, because they've hit just 3 home runs, 2 from Ramon Laureano. But yeah, I mean, we've already said it, Alan, the first week of the show, how many times as Manny goes, the team goes, and he hasn't gotten off to the greatest start. They're 2 and 4. And I know he'll get his numbers. I always say that. I'm not sitting here like, oh, is he going to hit 25 home runs? He will, because he always does. But they could use a better road trip for Manny than they just had a homestand for Manny.
Well, I think the other piece of it, and this is the things that always get hidden when you're winning. So even if they had played as bad as they did, but they went 3 and 3 or they went 4 and 2, our conversation would be different. What Eric mentioned right there, you lost each one of the series that you played. You're 2 and 4. You lost the homestand. A lot of excited Padre fans, obviously, to start the year. The Padres aren't every franchise out there. When you start the season, everyone's excited because you don't know yet what's going to happen.
Yep.
Everyone's within a playoff race. I know that sounds crazy to say 6 months, but everyone's on an equal playing field. You already kind of dug yourself a little bit of a hole. I think the fact that you walked away from Petco Park and that first homestand, and I don't think people were excited. They're more concerned about how you started. That obviously has something to do with it as well. Some really good comments, too, in the chat on YouTube. And by the way, if you guys don't know or you guys aren't here, or you want to see us, Schaefer and Sliwa on YouTube, so feel free to go there. Subscribe to the channel if you guys don't mind as well. But we will read some of these comments. A couple of here. Somebody's saying here, the good was Merrill and Laureano. The bad was back of the rotation. Like we talked about a little bit earlier, your 4th and 5th starter. And he said, ugly, the overall lack of energy this first homestand. Remember you said this a couple games ago, you're like, did they start? Like,
right.
Do they know that they started the season? I think the energy thing is something, and maybe it's because it's a marathon and it's not a sprint. And as much as fans and media might get excited for the start of the season, you want the players to show that same thing, whether that's fair or not.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. And we'll get to some of these calls. 877-767-4760. What's your good, bad, and ugly a weekend for the Padres? 877-767-4760. There was a moment during that Giants series, Alan, where it was 3-0 in the 9th inning and they had 2 hits. Now, Merrill homered, to make it a 1-run game, so it looks better than it was. But I remember thinking, watching that game, I'm like, what's happening here? Like, there's 45,000 people in the building, and you have done absolutely nothing. Now, sometimes you credit the opposition. It's not just them not wanting to do something. It sometimes looks like that in baseball. But the optics of games 1 and 2 of the Giants series, a team that was 0-3 coming in, I get the perception of a Padre fan that's like, what's happening here? Because this does not look good.
You know what I think? I want to say, one of the things that is, and you could tell me this because you've been in the San Diego market in the sense of behind a mic for a number of years now, and this is new for me. I have not been on a daily show in San Diego, so this is phenomenal. I love it, and I'm looking forward to having these conversations. I do like that the mood, because I could tell you that there were many years around San Diego Padres baseball where there just wasn't expectations. So there wasn't really this, do you have that much of a fire towards something that is not going to be successful? if I know my team sucks, then it's really difficult to give this extra passion and everything else. What I've noticed just even in these few days, and since obviously the Padres started this season, the expectation is different, and that's kind of a breath of fresh air.
Right.
People are a lot more critical, and they're a lot more. I enjoy hearing people giving the criticism and being critical, because that's when you know that a franchise does have expectations, and if you're not living up to those expectations, it didn't start a year ago, it didn't start 2 years ago, but that's refreshing to see.
Yeah, that's well said. Let's go back to the phones, Alan. 877-767-4760. Schaefer and Sliwa with you on this Thursday afternoon, and a longtime listener and viewer, Dave, wants to weigh in. Dave, thanks for calling in, man.
Well, first of all, a hearty welcome to the new guy in town here. And Al, good to have you along.
Thank you, Dave. Appreciate it.
You betcha, man. So we'll have a lot of fun, and that's what it is at sports.
Yep.
I don't have a good, bad, and ugly, guys. I have my overall concern is simply this: what is critical for this team to do is to get off to a good start. That was the great thing about last year. If you're talking about the 14-3 provided them a cushion so they could sustain periods of underperformance and injuries throughout the rest of the season. So at this point, you got to say, well, look, if you don't get off to a good start, then where do you begin to make up for the games that you've lost here in the early part of the season when you have one of the older, if not one of the oldest teams starting wise in baseball that projects to have certainly periods of injuries and other underperformances. So having said that, I think that's where my concern lies. And I think that's why a lot of fans reacted the way they did here, because we know what's up.
Dave, you might have cut out, but appreciate you calling it and listening. Loyal listener, you've heard him, I'm sure, Alan, on the show before. Yeah,
he cut himself off.
He he might have cut himself off. I get the listen. How many times have we said this already? It's like,
yeah,
you can go 2-4 June 9th through the 13th, but when you go 2-4 out of the gates and people are expecting you to be a playoff caliber team, it's just it can be disappointing, and I completely understand that.
Well, I think the point too is NL's competitive.
Yeah,
like, it ain't going to be easy. It's not easy to make the postseason. Right. There's a lot of really good competitive teams, and I think there's enough doubt in the San Diego Padres. What I mean by that is, if they get to, just hypothetically, let's say they got to a point where they were 8-10 games below 500, do you feel good and confident that the Padres are going to put themselves in a position where they're going to storm back? So I think the point Dave's making is, that was the most important thing about last year. Nobody's saying you got to be 14-3, which they literally mathematically cannot anymore. Nobody's saying that they have to have that hot of a start. But I think it's this, you and AC were talking about this. Can you kind of hover around 500? That's it. And you'll eventually, if you catch stride and there's a certain month that you play great baseball and you find yourself 5, 6, 8 games over 500, start kind of creating yourself a little bit of a cushion. What you don't want to do is, you're all the way behind, and you already don't have a roster that's perfect. You're already depending on guys that you're hoping that could have breakout seasons, or you're already asking players that you're not 100%. Is Manny going to have another 30 home run season? We'll find out. We'll wait and see. Don't put yourself so far behind the 8 ball that now all of a sudden you're looking up and it's June 1st or it's July 1st. You're looking up at the standings. You're like, dang, we got to finish with X amount of wins in order to try to grab one of these wild card spots.
We'll continue this conversation over the course of the next couple of hours. There was an interesting comment today from Buster Olney about what a potential work stoppage might mean for baseball this year that we'll get into. Plus, this NBA MVP race is heating up, and Victor Wembanyama is talking about his own case. You'll hear from Wemby. On the other side, Eric Pincus covers the NBA for Bleacher Report. He'll join us at 4 p.m. This is Schaefer and Sliwa, San Diego Sports 760, and live on the iHeartRadio app.
This report is sponsored by Positive Coaching Alliance. The Padres are off today, but they start a weekend series in Boston tomorrow morning. It's going to be Michael King going against Sonny Gray. First pitch is set for 11:10 a.m. In other baseball news, the Pirates are calling up Connor Griffin. He is the number one prospect in all of Major League Baseball. They're calling him up ahead of their home opener tomorrow against the Orioles. At 19 years old, Griffin, who's expected to be their starting shortstop, would be the first teenage position player to debut since Juan Soto in 2018. And tonight we have Lakers basketball on San Diego Sports 760 when they take on OKC. Pre-game coverage will begin at 6:15 and we'll have the tip around 6:30. If you have questions about youth or high school sports, Positive Coaching Alliance can help. PCA builds better athletes and better people through sports. Info at positivecoach.org.
All right, Schaefer and Sliwa on this Thursday afternoon. John Schaefer, Alan Sliwa, Eric Pincus, Bleacher Report on the NBA will join us. Huge night coming up, and he'll join us at 4 p.m. Before, Alan, we hear from Victor Wembanyama. He was on with SVP Scott Van Pelt last night on ESPN. Remind me where we are in just the MVP race. Like, where are you? Are you Team Wemby or Team Shea? I think that's basically where we are.
Well, I mean, listen, I think it's like 38 pages of notes. I don't know if you can see it. It looks like I didn't write anything. You know what's made? I'll tell you what's made the. If you're a big NBA fan, then you're paying close attention. Like tonight's a really good night in the NBA, and
Right.
Even if you just look at the SoCal teams, the Clippers are taking on the San Antonio Spurs. So there's your Victor Wembanyama right there. Obviously, Lakers are taking on the Thunder. What's made the MVP chat so there's like legit conversations for a number of guys. I can make a case for Jaylen Brown. I really can. I can make a case for Wemby. I can make a case for Luke. I can make a case for SGA. Here's the only thing I'm going to hold against SGA, and I heard you and Sammy were talking a little bit about this. Only thing I hold against him is the award is the most valuable player. If I take SGA out of the Oklahoma City Thunder, they're still a really good team. And that's a compliment to their depth. That's a compliment to all the different players that they have. It's a compliment to their front office, their coaching staff, everything else. You take Luka Doncic off of the Los Angeles Lakers, you and I might be able to get some minutes going up against whoever it is out there. The team's awful.
How many minutes?
I think I could get 14, but that's only because literally after 7 minutes and a half, I can't breathe.
Well,
so it has more to do with my endurance than anything else.
Then I'd like to see them trade Luka back.
Here's why I make a case for Wemby. And here's why I think if I'm giving it to one person, I give it to Wemby. If you go look at where the San Antonio Spurs were supposed to be this season, they're not supposed to be in the conversation in the West. They're not supposed to be in the conversation of a top two team that the Thunder still are looking to lock up that number one seed. If the Thunder found a way to lose one or two games, the Spurs can pass them and still have the best record in the Western Conference. I also think Wemby is just special offensively, defensively, what he does on both sides of the floor. You know what? I'm sold with Wemby. I'll give it to him.
You know what's funny? Tell me if you agree with this. I feel like if I publicly say I like Shea's game, that's almost like wearing a scarlet letter outside of Oklahoma City. Everyone, of course, every Thunder fan loves the Thunder, as they should. Mm-hmm. But I feel like there's a belief.
Huge Thunder base out in
it's huge
San Diego.
Out here. It's huge.
Your wife.
My wife, especially in North County.
That's so funny. That's so funny that like she loves the
oh my
Thunder.
gosh, she's got his orange, whatever the orange jersey is. She like wears it all the time.
That's hilarious.
But like, would you agree with that? That like saying that you like Shea Gilgeous-Alexander's game almost like exposes you or like outs you from, you don't know the NBA because Shea, he's never going to go down as an all-time great, even though he might rack up a title or two or an MVP or two. He's not an all-time great because the style of his game just doesn't match up.
Well, it shouldn't, because I think people who appreciate the game of basketball, and if the goal is to win, guy's freaking winning.
A winner, yeah.
And if the goal is to rack up an MVP in the process, he's already got one of those. Now, maybe it's not the sexiest pick, but Shea Gilgeous-Alexander can be – he's not just a franchise player. I love the way he kind of carries himself. I love his style. Again, you know what it comes down to? It's, in baseball, you can look at players out there and who's the flashiest, and then you could go look for who wins. who when the dust settles, it's like, yeah, that dude's a winner. In the NFL, I could show you plenty of guys in the regular season that just are a highlight trio. When it's in the playoffs and you need somebody to just kind of execute and be a little bit boring and get the job done, give me that guy when you're in the playoffs. And that might be Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. And if people don't want to appreciate his game, then I don't think they're appreciating the game of basketball. So I think you're okay to say it, even though a lot of people might disagree with it. I'll take boring all day long. Just win.
All right. I feel better about that now. All right. Let's hear what Victor Wembanyama himself had to say. This is last night. Another massive game. Every time he does anything, they put on the bottom line like a Trout or Ohtani, like Ohtani's the first player to do this, or Trout and Ohtani.
Ohtani hasn't done it. I don't want to hear that about
but
that.
you know, Mike. But like it used to be,
guy.
It used to be with the Angels. Trout and Ohtani are the first teammates ever to hit 7 home runs in a game as they lose 9-7. Right? That's not the case with Wemby right now.
Sure,
They're winning games. But this is Wemby post game. Another big night with Scott Van Pelt.
And something that happened recently, Victor, where you were asked about the MVP, and I loved how thoughtful you were in explaining why you believe that a vote for you made sense. And I agree with much of what you said. And I just appreciate that you won it. And it's something that matters to you. Some people act like, they don't care, they're indifferent. How important is that to you eventually, whether it's now or somewhere down the road, to be recognized as the best player in this league?
Oh, yeah, I do care deeply about it. And I think that all the greats, that are in the Hall of Fame or that are in our mind the best of all time, they have fought and grabbed everything they could grab early on in their career, And if I want to make my spot among the greats, I got to try to not miss any occasion I have to put my name up there.
I love it.
He's making the public case. Yeah, and again, Scott Van Pelt led him down the path, but he's
a politician. Wemby's a politician.
Do you think that plays any role in determining who wins this?
No, I don't think it plays a role, but I think that everybody's style is different, right? So you and I might have our own unique styles on radio than somebody else. Somebody else might want to make a name for themselves because they're the loudest in the room. Somebody else might just say, I play the long game and we'll take our time. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander said, I'm going to let my game speak for myself. Now, Shai's a little bit unique here. He's got an MVP. He's also got a championship. He doesn't have to say anything. Wemby, I don't think he's trying to make a case for himself. Wemby is saying, this is important to me. Everything's important to me. I don't care whether it's a most valuable player award. I don't care if it's a defensive player of the award. I don't care if it's go down the list. Every great that's come before me has racked up all these awards individually, and then what made them legends is they also got championships on top of that. I think he's just recognizing that, yeah, it is important to get an MVP. Yes, I want to be considered the best player or the most valuable player in the league. I kind of like that he doesn't shy away from it. It also sounds like he's being very honest. And he's also, 21, 22 years old? This is what he knows, and I think his perspective. Do you remember? Did you watch it? If you didn't, don't worry, because the ratings weren't very good, because they never are. Did you ever watch the NBA All-Star Game ratings? Oh, not the ratings. Did you watch the NBA All-Star Game this year?
I was confused going in because there were like 3 teams playing 2 games, which didn't mathematically work for me. So I want to say
it's like the 17 games in the NFL, right?
Right. I want to say
an even number.
I watched 0 seconds of it.
Okay. Do you know what one of the bigger storylines was?
Me watching No Time. Or no, what was one of the biggest storylines?
Wemby was trying.
Right.
A lot of the other NBA players didn't like it.
Right.
They didn't like it. Do you know who said? Anthony Edwards said, one of the bright young stars in the NBA. And by the way, I'm sure there's a lot of old school players that appreciate what Wemby was doing. Kobe freaking used to try. And people were like, what are you doing? And he's like, well, I'm competitive. I'm trying to win. Anthony Edwards said after one of the games, they said like, hey, that looked very competitive. What happened? He said, well, Wemby was trying. So because Wemby was trying, then all our competitive juices open up. The point I'm trying to make is that Wemby is respecting the game a little bit different than somebody else. He's going to make generational wealth. He's obviously good to go from all that perspective. But I like this I like to compete, and these guys are all competitors. If he starts competing, then everybody else is.
My one concern with some of the stars currently in the NBA, tell me if you think this is a valid concern.
Okay.
One of which is, first of all, I don't think we see Wemby look like this as long as some of these other stars look like they look, because he's 7'4". And I just would assume that you can't do this for 16 years. Maybe I'm wrong. I mean, he's already a one of one. So I'm worried that you're looking at a 6-8 year run where if you're going to win, you're going to do it in a 6 or 8 year period of time. But then I look around the West and you've got a team that's young like Oklahoma City, or even still a younger player in Luka. There's only so many opportunities for some of these stars. Like, someone's going to get squeezed, I guess is my point. Like, maybe Luka only ends up with 1 ring, or maybe Wemby only ends up with 1 or fewer rings, or right? Because it just seems like, again, Luka's not going to play forever. He's not old. He's not old at all. He's got a long career still ahead of him. Wemby, I just don't know. Am I going to see him play like this for 15 years or 5 more years? And I just wonder, as they all intersect with each other, is there room for everyone to get a couple of the things that they want?
Yeah, I think the question is going to come, and everyone's going to be greedy. Shea wants 2 or 3.
He wants 4. Yeah, exactly.
4.
Yep.
Shea wants to do what Steph Curry did in the
Bay.
But I think the question then kind of comes down to, and we're going to find this out about the NBA. I think right now you look at baseball, and you and I'm hoping for the system to change, because I don't think the system is fair. The NBA has built what is there's a way to kind of, as best as you can, a market in Oklahoma City can compete. It's not just LA and New York, right? Like everyone, the Padres can compete. They can win a World Series. The Nationals can. You could go down the list of some of these different franchises. The question I think that, it's going to come down to in the NBA, how your organization is ran has obviously got a lot to do with it. The only thing about Wemby, because I think a lot of people are concerned about injuries, and I would be too with him. The good thing in today's NBA, it's so much different, and you can be on the perimeter rather than be – a lot of those injuries typically happen closer to the basket, guys banging, and that's not Wemby's game to begin with, even though he can do it. Does that change anything? That Maybe. The game is stretched out, and that you can hit 40, you can have 40 points and not be Hakeem, Patrick, or Shaq, where they just lived in the paint.
It's a very good point. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out, not just this year, but moving forward for all these players. All right, you touched on where we are with Major League Baseball. It's equity or inequities. Yeah, it doesn't need to be blown up. What would a labor stoppage mean for the Padres? Plus, Buster only chiming in on what may play out this year because of a potential work stoppage next year. We'll discuss coming up next on Schaefer and Sliwa here on San Diego Sports 760 and live on the iHeartRadio app. All right, looking forward to connecting with Eric Pincus from Bleacher Report on this busy night in the NBA. He will join us coming up at 4 p.m. Padres enjoying an off day. They're back in action tomorrow morning against the Boston Red Sox at Fenway. It was earlier today, Alan, because you and I have spent a little bit of time maybe on what comes next for Major League Baseball with a potential work stoppage at the end of 2026. Buster Olney chimed in just a couple of hours ago, if that. And he said this: there's an expectation among many industry sources that the aggressiveness of some teams to sign players will continue, with the anticipation that if there is a salary cap in the future, any deal signed before December 1st might have to be grandfathered in to the next system, which is interesting because I've always said that even if you do cap this sport, what are you going to do? Make the Dodgers trade their players? There's no world in.
Sounds like a great idea.
It does sound like a very good idea.
I would love if we should put a poll on that, and the public poll should then take precedent.
Would you? So, you and I talked about this a little bit off the air.
Yeah.
Are you in favor of a stoppage if it leads to more equities in the game, like kind of lose a battle, win a war? If you have to miss some games, but it evens things out moving forward in 2027 and beyond?
So, look, a work stoppage, there's obviously a huge trickle effect in that. I don't want to see Petco Park closed. I don't want to see employees all of a sudden now not have an opportunity to come to work. I don't want to see bars in downtown San Diego not packed with people. Of course, I don't want to see any of that. Let me take off that hat for a quick second and talk about the San Diego Padres and what I'd like to see for the San Diego Padres. I want a system where every squad has a decent chance here of competing. That's all. It is going to come down to your ownership and your front office. And, something that does get lost here, do I think it's absurd what has happened to baseball and how the Dodgers are able to do what they've been able to do? It's not the Dodgers' fault, right? Like, I know we want to point our finger at the Dodgers. The Dodgers can also hold back some of this money, and they don't have to go get every starting pitcher, and they don't have to go get every good bat that's out there. They don't have to do that. Now, they have chosen to do that, but they also have much greater financial benefits than a lot of other markets. Give their TV deal. Again, it's not their fault. Don't hate the player, hate the game. This is where I hate the game. What I want at the end of the day is we can sit here and we could at least have a conversation and say, if that franchise is the best franchise, it's because their front office is really good. It's because their farm system is really good. And it's because they're very smart at the players that they go out and sign. But then they also got a little lucky, and this happened and that happened. That's going to happen in baseball. What you can't have happen is you got one franchise that has 37 different ways to win, and half of Major League Baseball only has one way to win. And if things don't go perfect for that franchise, then they have no shot at it. The Padres are not a good example of this. The Padres, I think everybody understands this if you're a baseball fan. Padres have some of the worst contracts in baseball, period. So it's not like work stoppage or a salary cap completely just benefits the Padres. I just want a league where the rules are a lot similar across the board. Now, I don't have all the knowledge and the nuances in what a labor talk would look like, but that's what I'm hoping for. And if that takes work stoppage, then yes, I would be rooting for a work stoppage.
Interesting, because here's what I think ultimately. I don't think we're heading towards a baseball that includes a salary cap. It would shock me. The Players Association is so strong, arguably as strong as there is, right, in professional sports. If they don't want it, I don't think that Kyle Tucker signing with the Dodgers broke the camel's back. I've made this point before. It's not to say there can't be a fundamental change in payroll or structure or taxing, but
what would that look like? Like what is a fundamental change that can still, can make the league a little bit more balanced? What do you think that would be?
I think they've already tried like a Steve Cohen tax when you go over a second or third threshold to be like, we're taxing you $1 for $1. You go sign a player, you're literally spending millions on top of the millions for the player. It's deterred probably most of the teams. The problem is the teams that can afford to do it will still do it.
So then it's still a problem.
It is still a problem. But at the end of the day, here's my issue with the cap is, what's the point if there isn't a floor? So you could argue floor as well. But
by the way, I think you should argue floor.
But
as
my
well.
issue with floor is then you get a little bit also like the NBA, like you're just trading guys because of contracts. It's like, well, the A's need money to take on, so they're just going to take on this salary just to take on this salary. At the end of the day, I don't know how it can truly be fixed because the Dodgers' local TV revenue is 15 times more than the Padres' local TV revenue. The difference in the NFL and Major League Baseball is the NFL splits its TV revenue. The Packers get the same check as the New York Giants, despite the fact that 100 times more people live in New York City, or maybe more than that. So,
isn't that a healthier league?
It may be, but that's where I would go. Maybe you split TV revenue more equally, but I still don't think you'd go as far, or the union would go as far, the Players Association would go as far as to quote unquote allow capped spending. I mean, you've seen some massive deals. Some of the biggest deals in the history of professional sports have been without a salary cap in Major League Baseball in recent years.
Let me say this then. Then I think the issue then becomes it's as much as the fault falls on the players as it does the owners.
Right.
Because if the players union does not want to see a salary cap,
they don't.
Which I understand why they don't. But again, I'm looking out. I care about one thing. The one thing I care about is there a system that makes it more competitive and gives more opportunity to a team like the San Diego Padres? I'm not telling you things got to sway completely towards the Padres, but just a system where in the NFL, you can be in Indianapolis and win. In the NFL, you can be in New Orleans and win. You don't have to be in this top market. In the NBA, that's starting to be the trend in the NBA as well, which they've had 7 different champions over 7 years.
But can't you win? To your point, can't you win in San Diego?
Here's the problem. I'm going to go back to what I just said. How many outs do you have? How many paths do the Padres have to win versus how many paths do another franchise out there? And I know we can keep saying the Dodgers, and the Dodgers have broke baseball, and I'm going to go back to it. I'm going to say it again. The Dodgers have done nothing wrong. The Dodgers are playing by the rules. They're not paying guys under the table. They're not, the Dodgers are just playing within the system, but the system is broken. Can you win in San Diego? You can. But let me tell you how you have to win in San Diego. Every starting pitcher that you have has to be healthy. Every starting pitcher that you have has to be coming through. Every player that you have has to be phenomenal, has to be great. You got to have some luck in the postseason as well. You got to stack all these things together. You know what the Padres don't have the luxury of doing? The Padres don't have the luxury of sitting starters for a month and a half in the middle of the season so they're fresh for the playoffs. You just need everything to go right. Can it happen? It can, but that's not how the competitive advantage is not the same.
I agree that there needs to be change. I don't know what the change is, and I agree generally with your sentiment, but I will say they led 2-1 in 2024 over the Dodgers, and it didn't have anything to do with the salary cap or the structure of the sport that they didn't win that series. I've always said that, and I don't think everything went perfectly well for the Padres.
But wait. Let's stop here for a second. They did lead 2-1. The squad spent $1.2 billion in that offseason. I mean, they went out and got you. What if there is a salary cap or there's some kind of structure and Yamamoto can't sign with them because their money is tied up somewhere else? Shohei was $700 million, and Shohei would have been worth $1 billion. I have no problem with them getting some of the players that they did, but if there is a different structure, then you can't load up the roster like you did.
True, but
currently the roster
or the game 7 of the World Series, it's Miguel Rojas that hits the home run to tie the game. You know what I mean? Like some of this goes beyond, I think.
Can you lose? You can. But again, I go back to it. I'll take my chances with the Dodgers have took their chances with, well, we'll just sign every freaking player and we'll take our chances.
Oh, no, I'm not saying the Dodgers have a better chance of winning than the Padres. There's no question about it. But I think there's enough variance in the sport that we shouldn't have the same team winning every year, even if they are out resourcing everyone. But then again, they could win a 3rd consecutive World Series this year. We'll touch more on it. Eric Pincus from Bleacher
Shohei
Report
has to go. That's it.
He's got to go. He's got to go. Eric Pincus, Bleacher Report, joins us next. We're talking about a big night in the association coming up next on Schaefer and Sliwa.
This report is sponsored by the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation. The Padres are off today, but they start a weekend series tomorrow morning in Boston. It's going to be Michael King going against Sonny Gray. First pitch is set for 11:10 a.m. In other baseball news, the Pirates are calling up Connor Griffin. He is the number 1 overall prospect in all of baseball ahead of their home opener against Baltimore tomorrow. At 19, Griffin, who is expected to be their starting shortstop, would be the first teenage position player to debut since Juan Soto did in 2018. And tonight, we've got Lakers basketball on San Diego Sports 760 when they take on OKC. Pregame coverage begins at 6:15, and we'll have the tip around 6:30. The Crohn's and Colitis Foundation has been at the forefront of inflammatory bowel disease research and care for over 50 years. Learn more at crohnscolitisfoundation.org.
It's Schaefer and Sliwa. Sean Schaefer.
When you think about the city of San Diego, some of the worst ownership groups with the Clippers situation, with the Chargers situation, even the Padres ownership history hasn't always been smooth sailing.
San Diego's own Alan Sliwa.
I felt like we went through a stage of baseball where everything was so predetermined. Why even have a manager? What's the point of having a manager?
Here's Schaefer and Sliwa.
All right, hour 2, the all-new Schaefer and Sliwa, San Diego Sports 760. With you until 6 p.m. Great giveaways still ahead. We'll turn our attention back to the Padres' upcoming road trip against the Red Sox beginning tomorrow, coming up this hour as well. But great to connect right now with Eric Pincus, covers the NBA for Bleacher Report, and with us right now in San Diego on 760. So first of all, Eric, we appreciate you taking time for us. And secondly, obviously a big night tonight, specifically when you think about some of these franchises in Southern California, whether it's Lakers Thunder, you've got Clippers Spurs, all these stars playing tonight, the Shays and the Wembys and the Lucas. I guess I would just start with the MVP conversation. Where are you right now with the year that Shea has had? Wemby's had his public pleas to potentially be the MVP. Luka's making a late season surge. Where do you land to the MVP discussion right now?
That's a good one because I don't think they can make a wrong choice, but I just feel right now like I got to go Victor Wembanyama because, I mean, the Thunder, maybe it's fatigue of Shea being brilliant. I mean, maybe that's not fair, but the Spurs they weren't even in the playoffs last year, and they're looking like a real contender. So just in their growth and their improvement and what he does both offensively and then defensively, I mean, I'm trying to, who has in history been like Victor Wembanyama? He's just such a unique player. Every so often someone comes around who you just can't really define. And I think it's been a real pleasure to watch.
Because what is the proper criteria? The problem is for me, I don't know if I truly understand what the criteria is for an MVP. And I think you could say this in any sport, if I'm being honest with you. I feel like it changes year to year. I feel like the conversation about Luka, he's kind of come in this last 30 days or so. Not that he hasn't had a brilliant season, but was named Western Conference Player of the Month. He's having a phenomenal season as well. The Lakers now find themselves pretty solid in that number 3 spot. When you look at the most valuable player, what's the criteria that's most important to you?
It's tough because, like, historically, it's been the best player on the best team. And sometimes you may not have, you might have a team that doesn't necessarily have a star. And so sometimes you bypass that team because maybe you have 2 guys scoring 20, 22 and there's no 30-point score or 40-point score, someone blowing up. So, but then we had Russell Westbrook did the triple-double thing, and the criteria seemed to switch a little bit. And then as I just mentioned with Shea, there's a little bit of fatigue. Well, if someone just won it, maybe we don't give it to them again. And you could say Nikola Jokic is MVP of any year, right? So I agree with you. There isn't a clearly defined criteria. The NBA has shipped off this responsibility to the media to vote for because teams can't vote for them because of some of the rules regarding supermaxes and such. So it's just, and they don't tell us how we're supposed to do this. So we just try to figure it out. So you're right. It's ambiguous. I think Luka, if he won it, sure. I mean, he's been absolutely incredible. He's had a great year. The Lakers are, again, just like the Spurs, probably better than anticipated, but the Lakers were also good last year. So that's probably why that big jump for the Spurs, why I'd lean Wemby. But if Shea got it, well, how can you complain? The guy's absolutely unbelievable.
Sure. Yeah, it's a good point. It's kind of like a bit of a Sophie's choice in terms of the possibilities for MVP this year. Eric Pincus is with us. He covers the NBA for Bleacher Report with us right now on Schaefer and Sliwa, San Diego Sports 760. We have Lakers Thunders tonight on 760 with pregame coverage beginning at 6:15. I think a month ago, some people would have called the Lakers like a bit of a paper tiger, a good enough record, but not good against really good teams. But now a lot of that has changed based on what they did in March. How do you see them in terms of the pecking order right now in the Western Conference?
Well, yeah, if you had asked me a month ago, I would say they basically beat any bad team or any less good team, right? Like, so any team you say the Lakers are better than, they're going to win, and they're probably going to win in a close game or handily, but they don't give up leads. That was like the early positive of, okay, they can't beat the good teams, but once they're ahead, they hold on to leads and they barely ever let them go. So that was like, at least there's some hope that maybe it would turn around if you're a Lakers fan. And then they had this month where they just had tough opponents and they rose to that occasion. They won on back-to-backs. I felt like LeBron embraced that role as the third scorer, the third in the pecking order in terms of offense. And I really feel like that was a significant shift. It lets Luka just be the guy, and then Austin be the one to play off of Luka, and LeBron just go finish, go get dunks. It's easy. He's able to get those points just off of receiving bullet passes or half court or, just out of bounds. They're just tossing the ball all the way down court to LeBron. So really, actually, it's kind of what they used to do with Anthony Davis. I mean, he's kind of accepted that role of just being the finisher. And so, yeah, they're there. They're in the West regular season, they're as good as anybody, maybe third in the pecking order. We'll see how they do against OKC tonight. But I really look, in the playoffs and I say, okay, matchups. Let's say they draw Houston or Minnesota, Denver. Denver, you probably want to stay away from. Obviously, they can't control that. But with Jokic, that's a tough one. But I think they match up reasonably well against the other two teams. And then you get to that second round, and assuming things go as seeded, you're probably playing the Spurs in the second round and the Thunder in the conference finals if you can get past the Spurs. And I personally don't see them as better than those two teams in the series, but at least San Antonio's young and inexperienced, and maybe that's a vulnerability. But realistically, I don't know that this is a championship year for the Lakers, but I do think it's been a good year and it's been fun to watch.
Eric Pincus taking some time to join us here on Schaefer and Sliwa. Eric Pincus, of course, part of the Bleacher Report, covers the NBA for Bleacher Report. Pincus, I'm curious. Let's the matchup tonight, Lakers and the Oklahoma City Thunder. What can change for you if the Lakers found a way tonight to go up against the defending, obviously the reigning NBA champions? You mentioned that road trip that the Lakers were on. You mentioned what they did in the month of March. They beat a lot of playoff teams. It's a whole different caliber when you take on the Oklahoma City Thunder. Let's say they beat them.
Sure.
Would your opinion change on? Can they do anything between now and the rest of the regular season ending where you feel like, hey, maybe they can be on par potentially with a Spurs or an OKC team?
Well, they beat the Cavs the other day on a back-to-back, and I knew the Cavs they're not quite the level of OKC, but I was like, that was a really solid, impressive win on the second night of a back-to-back. And if you go into OKC and if they just beat them comfortably by a good 20 points, or whatever, get up by 20, maybe the final score ends up being 13, but you know what I'm saying? Like, they win comfortably by double digits. That at least says to me, okay, this is. They're just as they've done throughout March, that I just need to be open to my take on who they are. I have to be open to maybe they're better than I think they are, because that's what happens. It's their job to prove it. Not obviously not to me. That's not their responsibility, but to prove in terms of get out on the court and beat the teams that you're supposed to beat, and then go out there and do better than anyone else expects. And if they can keep doing that, then it's like, well, you beat OKC. Let's say they beat some of these other, whoever they have left on the docket that's higher level, and if they just finish like this, you can't discount LeBron James even at 41. Luka Doncic is having a hell of a year, arguably MVP season, and Austin's incredible. That's their offense right there. Those are three really intelligent, high level creators of offense, which is really the challenge for a lot of teams, is that we see with maybe the Rockets that they don't have as many players who can create the offense. Where the Lakers struggle in my book, and really where I wonder, is on the defensive end. I feel like in the playoffs, the combination of Austin, LeBron, Luka may not be strong enough defensively. As whatever DeAndre Ayton and some of the other players can do inside, there's a limit to how much they can make up for what those players can do defensively, I think, in a series. But the opposite point is if those guys are really creating enough offense, they can give up a lot of points in return, and they just have to outscore the other opponents and just make enough plays to win. And we've seen it in history. It's not that common, but every so often you get a team that's just so good offensively that they can get it done. So maybe that's what this Lakers team could be.
Eric, final one for me would just be regarding, I know there's been this NBA investigation involving the Clippers, but my question is actually more about the impressiveness of the season from Kawhi Leonard. I mean, we all know Kawhi at his best can be, one of the top handful of players in the league, but he's almost taken it to like the nth degree this year. You could argue this is probably his best season or regular season of his career. Has that surprised you, what he's been able to accomplish this year, especially when you consider the way the team started this year when they were like 15 games under 500 at one point?
Yeah, it was really hopeless. The Clippers rather they have a swap on their pick, so they're getting the Thunder or whatever it was at the time. It's moved a little bit, but man, it was desolate. And then suddenly, they ran out a bunch of wins. Then they made these changes, which I've been begging them to make, at least in my writing, to say that they're winning, but this team, they have to get younger. And so putting younger players around Kawhi, but more importantly, he's been relatively helpful, and we can complain about load management, and he's sort of the face of that. But he has had some degenerative issues in his body that they have to manage. They have to manage very carefully. Otherwise, he's going to be gone a month at any given point. And if they're doing their job, and if he's doing his job to stay as healthy as possible, he's always been one of the best players in the league. He's an incredible scorer. He's a willing defender, at times elite defender. He may not be the same defender he was back in his absolute prime, but he is just this mid-range assassin. He shoots the three ball. Obviously, he's got these incredibly large hands, so he's got the ability to control the ball and do things that always seem to surprise me. So I'm happy to see him have that success. I don't know what's going to be the end result of this investigation. Everyone has strong feelings about it. There's always the thought that maybe he's playing this well because he's thinking maybe his contract next year might be voided out and he might be a free agent. That's the conspiracy theory, but. If you just go with purity and he loves the game and he's out there doing his thing, it's been really impressive to watch.
Think it's going to be a fun couple of games tonight. Clippers and the San Antonio Spurs, and the Lakers taking on the Oklahoma City Thunder. We greatly appreciate your time.
All right, I'm going to go head over to Inglewood, go watch that one.
There you go.
All right. Yeah, I like it. Great stuff. Great stuff. Eric Pincus on MVP race and these huge games coming up tonight in the NBA. Let's turn our attention out on the other side, back to the Padres and their first-year manager, Craig Stammen. Some really good insight that we'll discuss on the other side. An off day for the Padres. They're getting ready for the Red Sox. Craig Stammen under a microscope already, 6 games in, and we'll tell you more about that on the other side. This is Schaefer and Sliwa, San Diego Sports 760. We're live on the iHeartRadio app. All right, San Diego Sports 760 congratulates our winners, and iHeartRadio's Thank a Teacher powered by Donors Choose. And there is still time to donate to a classroom project, and your donation will be matched by Donors Choose. Help us say thank you to the educators shaping our future now at iHeartRadio.com/teachers. Schaefer and Sliwa on this Thursday afternoon. We should remind our listeners, Alan, that we have giveaways today.
Okay.
So we've got tickets to see Charlie Puth at Viejas Arena in less than 3 weeks. So that's April 22nd. And we have a family 4-pack of tickets to Sesame Place. Should we give one of those two away in the next 7 minutes, would you say?
Yes.
You think we should?
Yes. Yeah, I think we should.
Which one of those should we give away? We're not actually giving away Charlie Puth. We're giving away tickets to see Charlie Puth.
Charlie Puth, I think, in the next 7.
You want to give him away?
Yeah.
All right. So we'll give away Charlie Puth.
He will perform at wherever you are.
We'll give away tickets to see Charlie Puth at Viejas Arena coming up in the next 6 or 7 minutes. Now, you were watching earlier today, former colleagues of mine, great friends, Darren Smith, Marty Caswell. They're doing a great podcast on YouTube, Friar Territory Podcast. They were with a really good former Padre closer in Heath Bell. And we were talking yesterday about, it's interesting, the honesty coming out of Craig Stammen post-game and what he said yesterday in their win. Hey, listen, I'm a little tired. I didn't even want to write in the lineup card. It hasn't gone very well. I asked my bench coach, Randy Noor, to do it. I was willing to praise Craig Stammen for the honesty. Heath Bell, from what you were watching with Darren and Marty on Friar Territory, had a different take.
Yeah, great conversation. I think the thing that stood out to me is you might say, love the honesty. Fans might say, oh, that's a unique story. That's cool. That's different. Heath Bell looked at it as, you're a first-time manager. You are trying to establish that I'm the guy here that you can depend on. I'm the leader in this clubhouse. I'm the leader, and you can look at me, and you could be very, very confident in my skill set, and I'm the right guy for the job. Heath Bell said, well, how do I know that? I mean, you're depending on somebody else to put your lineup out because you didn't have that much success early on. So how much confidence do I have in you that you're the guy for this role from a manager perspective? Now, listen, could he have BS'd it a little bit? Maybe he's being a little, a lot of people, and I think actually good leaders do this. They try to give credit to somebody else. Could I sit here and tell you that maybe the idea and the concept was, well, I'm going to give somebody else the credit because I know I'm using this as an example from a leadership perspective, but a lot of leaders, they don't need to tell you or convince you that they're the leader. They're okay with saying, yeah, I'm going to give credit somewhere else. Heath Bell's kind of perspective on it was that doesn't, from a player perspective, do I lose some confidence in my manager that he's going out and telling the media that he didn't put the lineup out there?
It's interesting when you put it that way, or for like the perspective of Heath Bell.
Yeah,
it's kind of like when I get on the plane, I don't want the pilot to be like, man, this co-pilot is awesome. I've had some moments here recently, but trust me, this guy's awesome. So you're in good hands. Don't worry about what I want someone that is ready to steer a ship, like that's going to hold it steady through rocky waters. But whatever I'm making multiple cliches through multiple types of travel now, through air and water. So I do understand that. And the point I've recently made as well, and I'm waffling on this, on the Craig Stammen thing, because I don't know. It's only been a week. What do I know? I'm just learning on the job like he is as well when it comes to him. The one thing I have said recently, and I maybe have said on YouTube, on wrap-up shows, is that Craig Stammen to me is not overly inspiring. Like when I hear him speak,
sure,
it doesn't really get me ready to go. Now, I don't know how he's speaking publicly with his team, but something about his demeanor, again, I'm still trying to learn it. They go 5-1 on this road trip, Alan. I might tell you he's the second coming of Casey Stengel, but the jury is obviously out. I go back to the initial point that we made all offseason. The Padres have gone out on a limb here. They now know that Craig Stammen is under a microscope. If he fails to meet expectations, it's going to be very problematic, and probably not for Craig Stammen. It may be more so for the organization. So I don't truly know how to feel about it, but that is interesting perspective from Heath Bell.
This is how early on we are, because you can take this in many different ways. And the reason why it stuck out to me, it wasn't, if I had the standpoint of, does this guy know what he's doing? That's different.
Mm-hmm.
But Heath Bell is a former player.
Right.
And he kept saying, hey, look, he's a nice guy. I like the guy. But this is not supposed to be your friend. This is supposed to be now your manager. This is your there's a pecking order, and you want to make sure that, hey, that's the leader. But this is how much we're going to hit on this all season long to try to figure out if he's the right guy or if he's not the right guy. You gave the example of the pilot giving credit to the co-pilot, right?
Right.
There are a lot of presidents and CEOs out there that say, guys, I mean, I'd love to take the credit. I can't do this without my employees.
Sure.
I can't do it without them. This company is not successful unless A, B, C, D, and E, all these different people are contributing, because there are a lot of times where I could sit here and tell you, I said we should do this. They disagreed. I went with their idea, and I went with it. Some of the best leaders and the managers also take a lot of information from whoever's within their company and end up making a decision based off of that. Maybe Craig Stammen didn't explain it perfectly, but I don't have a problem with him looking down and saying, hey, let's kind of work on this collectively. I've tried this a couple of times. It didn't go all that well. And I go back to it. This is the part of, well, he's never managed before. Because if Mike Schilt did that and he had a conversation, he said, you know what, guys, I had a couple of lineups here that didn't go all that well. And I leaned on somebody else to do it. Heath Bell's not saying anything about Mike Schilt because he's already proven. He's already done it. He's already been a manager for the Padres, had success doing it. With the new manager, every single thing he does, if he grabs a Gatorade, people are asking, I don't know, that's a lot of sugar in that Gatorade. Why is he making that decision? Like, every single thing he does is going to be scrutinized or analyzed.
Yeah, it really will. And especially when they're not winning. And again, it's such a short amount of time. But, if you're not winning, he's going to be scrutinized. If they are, I don't even know how much credit he's going to get, but I do know this. If they're not winning, he will be heavily, heavily scrutinized by everyone, media, fans alike.
Comes with the territory, right?
That's the job.
And until you're an established player, manager, you're going to get scrutinized.
100%. All right, we're going to get to the wrap on the other side, but we did promise you tickets to see Charlie Puth at Viejas Arena. Call right now if you want those free tickets. April 22nd, 20 days away. Is that right? What's today? 20 days away. 20 days away from seeing Charlie Puth at Viejas Arena. If you want those tickets, caller 4, you are going for free. 877-767-4760. Call right now. 877-767-4760. Pick up the phone and call right now if you want 2 free tickets to see Charlie Puth at Viejas Arena on April 22nd. Tickets at Ticketmaster.com. The wrap is coming up next. This is Schaefer and Sliwa on San Diego Sports 760 and live on the iHeartRadio app.
This report is sponsored by Unbound.org. The Padres are off today. They will start a weekend series in Boston tomorrow against the Red Sox. It's going to be Michael King going for the Padres and Sonny Gray going for the Sox. First pitch is set for 11:10 in the morning. In other baseball news, the Pirates are calling up Connor Griffin. He is the number one prospect into all of Major League Baseball. They're bringing him up in time for their home opener tomorrow against the Orioles. At 19 years old, Griffin, who was expected to be their starting shortstop, he would be the first teenage position player to debut since Juan Soto did it in 2018. And tonight, of course, we've got Lakers basketball on San Diego Sports 760 when they take on OKC. Pregame coverage will begin at 6:15 and the tip will be around 6:30. Right now, there are young people across the world facing a tough choice: continue their dream of education or drop out to help their family put food on the table. You can help change their future in a single moment. See how far your support can go at unbound.org.
All right, Schaefer and Sliwa, San Diego Sports 760. Alan, someone's going to see Charlie Puth. Maybe you could go with them because we had a winner just a few moments ago.
I appreciate they reach out and at least ask.
Yeah, what do they do? Just what's your number again?
619.
It starts with 619.
It is the first three. So
all you have to know is the next 7.
Yeah, figure it out.
I'll
give them one more number, 6. That's it.
I like that.
No more.
We need to get to the wrap, but I was going to ask you a very random question. It's very random.
Okay.
Are you a lottery player? Scratch offs?
Player. No.
Real
not
deal?
A lottery player.
Either am I. And the reason I ask you, you just said like, hey, guess the rest of my number. Do you know how hard that is? Like when it seems easy. Like just get the next 6 numbers right. 8, 4, 3, 9. First of all, the math on that is ridiculous.
Did you ever watch like at all? And I'm not telling you that I watch this because I don't. I've seen maybe a couple episodes. What's the show where the lottery winners?
Like My Lottery Dream Home?
No, that's one of them where I think they win and then they spend
and they talk about what
there.
happens with the lottery winners, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Isn't it true that most people that have won big in a lottery
it's a huge percentage
end up like in debt or
it's
like
a huge
run through
percentage.
The money? Yeah.
This is the one. That's the one thing that I have like such a difficult time comprehending. Which everybody's got a different background and a story, but like, what do you mean you won 45 million
and you blew it
and it's gone?
Like, how'd you do that? Yeah, that is kind of interesting.
Hang out with me. You're not going to spend much money. You're as boring as I am. You're going to have plenty of money.
That's well said. All right, without further ado, let's get to this.
It's time for the wrap. Presented by Sombrero Mexican Food. Check out their website at sombreromex.com.
Who's going to win tonight's Lakers Thunder game?
Lakers Thunder. I'm going to go. I think there was this morning when I was doing my show, I think if I'm correct here, the Thunder were, maybe the line changed. It was Thunder were 9.5 point favorites.
What? That's big.
That's high.
Big number.
Yeah, I guess it started at 6.5 and then, everybody started betting. So the numbers went up to 9.5. Lakers are on a great run, phenomenal run. Oklahoma City Thunder are like, hold my beer. We've been doing this for 6 months or 5 months, whatever the case is. So until the Lakers actually go and beat the Oklahoma City Thunder or the San Antonio Spurs, got to give Thunder the edge. And the game's in OKC. In a weird way, I think the Thunder are also trying to. This is what championship caliber teams do. When they feel like there's something to compete against, they usually smash you in the mouth and want to make sure they, kind of put you back in your place. So if I got to pick a team, I'm picking the Thunder tonight.
It's funny you say that. I watched, because of my wife, I watched Thunder Pistons the entire game the other night. The Pistons had their top 5 scorers out. I feel like they're going to lose by 20. Well, they led most of the game, including late in the fourth quarter, before allowing OKC to tie it and then win it in overtime. But it felt to me like Oklahoma City was playing with its food. I don't think they do that against the Lakers. No. I think they looked at the Pistons like, well, this isn't the Pistons that we might see down the road.
Is that why you said we were talking about this and you're like, did you see the Shea push-off?
The Shea push-off came in the Pistons.
In my head, I'm like,
what?
No, I didn't. But
you're not watching
why did
Pistons?
You see the Shea push-off?
I watch every
Thunder Pistons game.
I'm starting a Pistons wrap-up show tonight, so tune in. No, I'm actually not. Or a Thunder wrap-up show. Anyway, it's a long way of me saying I agree with the point that the Thunder won't take the Lakers lightly.
I agree.
I hope it's a very good game. I think there's a chance it is a very good game. I would just trend to believe or tend to believe. Oklahoma City, by the way, doesn't lose at home. I would think Oklahoma City will win at home.
If the question was the spread,
Yeah,
I would
you'd
take the
probably
Lakers,
I agree.
but it's not that.
Yeah.
The question is who wins.
I agree. Next question.
The spread's currently at 9 right now, too, by the way.
Okay.
Who's going to have a better year, Jackson Merrill or Fernando Tatis Jr.?
That's a really good
Isn't
question.
that interesting?
I think by the way, I'm going to ask, I'm going to confuse myself on this. Do they need Tatis to have a better year, or do they need Merrill to have a better year? I don't know if I have the answer to that.
I don't have the answer on that.
But I'm going to say, I'll take a little bit of a risk here. I'll say Jackson Merrill has the better year for the Padres, and maybe kind of building off what he did in his first year. Tatis, as great as Tatis has been, there are times where I feel like that swag that he used to have, unless he's in the WBC, is not there. And I don't know how much that's going to have an effect, but maybe these two guys both ball out and Merrill just has a little bit better of a season.
I agree with you. I do. I think
Really?
Jackson.
Okay, I'm a little surprised.
All
right.
I'm just down. I love Tatis. There's no player I probably ever liked more than Fernando Tatis Jr. I'm not kidding when I say that, but I'm getting a little cold on him, and that not based on these 6 games, based on the last 3 years.
I know.
Not based
you're right.
on these 6 games.
It's not a 6-game
So
sample size.
I just feel a little bit more like Merrill has been the more consistent player, and he wasn't necessarily last year, but he was as a rookie. I think Merrill is fully capable of having the better year. If you're asking me what I prefer Tatis. You need him in the right mindset. I don't want him, woe is me all season long. I'd prefer Tatis, but I think Merrill is capable of having just as good of a year.
I'll add one thing to that. When you have Jackson Merrill going up against kids in the outfield with his rock, paper, scissors, taking them out, that means he's in a killer mentality to start the year. I don't see Tatis taking out kids in paper, rock, scissors.
I don't want to see Tatis play Merrill in rock, paper, scissors because the loser.
You're right about that. Yeah, you're right.
That wouldn't be good. Next question.
Does ESPN have the Padres too high or too low in their power rankings? They're currently at 20.
All right, 20 out of 30.
All right, 20 out of 30. So high would be your number one, low is the last team.
Yeah, exactly.
I'd say they have them too high.
Wow.
I looked at this, and you and I were kind of trying to guess here. Where do we think they are? I think I said 22nd or 23rd.
You said 23rd.
So naturally, if that's what I said, then I'm assuming that they should have been lower. I have not watched every other team out there. I know the start that the Giants had. I know the Red Sox coming up. You start a series with them tomorrow, and they started out the season 1-5. So I'm sure there's worse teams out there. But from what I've seen so far, they are not a top. They would be a bottom 1/3 team to me, and that's where I would put them.
I do agree that right now there's no way to argue that they wouldn't be a bottom 1/3 team. I still think, and I'm sure you feel the same way, that they have a chance to be better than the 20th best team.
Yeah, definitely. I'm just playing it off the 6 games.
Yeah, and that's what it is because it's a power ranking. So what they've done to this point is, at best, they're the 20th best team in baseball based on this start at home. I'm with you. They probably could have been ranked lower than that based on what they've done to this point. Next question.
Did the Raiders make the right call to sign Kirk Cousins today?
So the Raiders have the number 1 overall pick.
That's right.
So I'm assuming here they're going to draft Mendoza, the defending champion quarterback at Indiana. And I'm just going to assume that Kirk Cousins is coming in to basically be a mentor to Mendoza. And, something that, John, when you and I were growing up, it was a lot more normal to give number 1 picks or first-round draft picks in the NFL, give them time to develop.
Oh, yeah.
I remember, you look at guys like Drew Brees, you look at guys like Phillip Rivers, you look at guys like Aaron Rodgers, there's plenty of examples out there where, hey, let's give this guy a second before we hand him the keys to the most important position in all of sports. I mean, I don't know what's a more important position.
Yep.
And that has not been the case. If the strategy for the Raiders is we'll bring in Kirk Cousins because we think he can help just mentor a guy like Mendoza, then I like it. If they're bringing in Kirk Cousins for anything other than that, then I'm not really sure the thought process there.
I don't like it because it's the Raiders don't know. I just assume it's not right because it's the Raiders. If someone else did it,
That's
I
so
might
funny.
like it more.
That's so fair.
The
That's
Raiders,
so fair.
like I'm trying to think of franchises that are just anything they touch doesn't work. The New York Jets.
Yeah.
There's a lot of football teams. The Cleveland Browns, the Las Vegas Raiders. Let's go to another sport. I mean, my whole lifetime, I've never seen the Charlotte Hornet, Bobcat, whatever the hell they are.
Yeah.
Be relevant. They're quasi-relevant right now. New Orleans basketball never works. There's just some of these franchises.
Sacramento. I mean, it doesn't mean they haven't had success. It's just they're always a bad franchise.
The A's for 30 years now. Previously, they did have a history, no doubt about it. But it feels like everything they touch just goes haywire.
Mm-hmm.
That's my feeling on the Raiders in general, and that's my concern if I'm Fernando or whatever his name is, Mendoza. Is it Francisco or Fernando? Fernando.
Yeah, I think
Francisco Mendoza. It's Fernando Mendoza, and he's gonna
naming guys whatever they want to be. Fernando Mendoza. Yeah.
Who cares?
By the way, that is really funny for you to say. Like, hey, I like this. If the same move happened, if the number one pick,
if this was New England,
I love it. I mean, it's so genius. I mean, what they're doing and how
awesome.
they're doing. You're breaking it down like Mel Kiper.
Yeah, if this is the Pittsburgh Steelers, it probably makes sense, but it's not. It's the Raiders, so it probably doesn't. All right, we're going to get to some of your comments on Craig Stammen's first week as a Major League Baseball manager. Some of those coming in on our YouTube stream. You can find us on YouTube. Search for Schaefer and Sliwa. We'll get back to the good, bad, and ugly of the Padres through the first homestand of the year as well. Here until 6 p.m. Stay with us on Schaefer and Sliwa, San Diego Sports 760, and live on the iHeartRadio app. All right, Schaefer and Sliwa on this Thursday afternoon. San Diego Sports 760. We still have a family 4-pack of tickets to give away to Sesame Place. We'll do that coming up in the 5 o'clock hour. Also, as we've touched on throughout the course of the first couple of hours, Lakers tonight on San Diego Sports 760. They'll take on Oklahoma City down in OKC. Pre-game coverage begins at 6:15. Tip-off at 6:30. Little known fact, Alan.
Yep.
I don't think you know this.
That your wife is a Thunder fan?
Huge Thunder fan, but here's your little known fact.
Love that.
Here's your little known fact. I went to a game at Oklahoma City because I had a buddy that worked for the Thunder when I worked in minor league baseball. He left minor league baseball to work for the Thunder and like promotions.
How long ago was that?
Way back. Kevin Durant played for the Thunder. And in fact, KD won the game either at or near the buzzer against the Knicks.
Okay.
And I mean, that place was rocking then.
Sure.
Because that was a really good iteration of Oklahoma City, obviously. And then it got broken up, as we know. Kevin Durant's a big part of that. And then it's been put back together. But it is a unique place in terms of the city itself. Oklahoma City is unique. They didn't have professional sports for a long, long time. Tons of pride, by the way, in the city with its history. I don't know. It was like quasi college atmosphere,
sure,
quasi professional atmosphere, if that makes sense. Like there's not a lot to wrap your arms around. You have the Sooners, you got Oklahoma State, and then you kind of had the Thunder. But anyway, I've been to a game there.
I've been to a game there as well. So I've been to one game as well. So that's it. That's all my history.
Were you at the same game as me against the Knicks in like 2009?
We actually, you and I saw each other.
No, I remember. That's right.
We ran into each other.
Like the Final Four.
Yep. You said, hey, Slee, why don't you buy me a beer? And I had to buy you a beer. But the one thing I will say about the Thunder, all good. They're a good NBA team. They're a good NBA franchise. They ran very well. Sam Presti's incredible. The whole thing. They really are the class of the NBA right now. Only issue I had is I hated Seattle losing their team because what Seattle, I can give an equivalent. There's probably a lot of NBA fans that sit today and say, wait, how did Seattle lose their team? That was a phenomenal basketball market, and it had great history. And I'm sure there's a lot of NFL fans who I know that still say it today. Wait, how did San Diego lose the Chargers?
Yes.
So I feel like there's some similar. Every time I think of the Sonics, I think about, man, how did they get screwed out of a team? But they're probably going to get one back. So maybe that gives us a little bit of hope, thinking that maybe one day we can get an NFL team back. As long as Dean's not around.
Let me ask you this. Let me ask you this, because I feel the same way about relocations by and large. Like, you think about the people that spent their hard-earned time and money, generations of memories, and just ripped apart in like a 24-hour period.
Yep.
How would we feel though?
Okay.
I mean, I'd probably be hypocritical on it. If someone told me 20 years ago the Sonics are moving to San Diego, I'd be like, let's go. Like I wouldn't spend 2 seconds thinking about the ramifications necessarily. Has their opinion changed post Chargers over the last 8 or 9 years?
I'll give you what's happened to me. And this kind of comes with some scars. When you get some scars, you're not the same person anymore. So to answer your question, if I'm being completely frank with you, I have reached a ruthless stage. And my ruthless stage is, I'm sorry, but either your city is going to get ripped from a squad or my city is going to get ripped from a squad. I've already seen it happen to my city a couple different times. If tomorrow you told me the Anaheim Ducks are moving to San Diego, I'll go over to Anaheim and I'll tell you guys, I'm sorry, but we got to do what we got to do. And then we got an NHL team in San Diego. At this point, I've seen just this. I'll use LA as an example. You think LA gives a rat's ass about the city of San Diego and what San Diego has lost as they get another squad or they get the Chargers or anything like that?
I don't. They
might sympathize or they might not care about it. That's how bad it is. They don't care that the Chargers are there. I know this. I lived in LA for a number of years. I'm very well understand the Los Angeles market. They don't care that the Chargers are there. Most of them first are Raider fans, then they're Rams fans, and then you go wherever you go from there. My point is that I have turned ruthless in that category, which I don't think I was before. I can't have sympathy if San Diego benefited off of somebody's loss. I'm sorry, but we got to look out for ourselves too. We've seen it enough to where it's more important for us to worry about ourselves.
But I will say this. And I tend to agree. Like it's kind of kill or be killed. And I don't know, some of it you can compartmentalize it in your mind where I'm like, whatever, we got the Phoenix Coyotes. I'm not going to worry about what they think. I could just compartmentalize it. But I will say this, the preference, all things being equal, is the expansion team. Like SDFC, expansion team. Padres back in the day, expansion team. Like, I think I would prefer that, truthfully. But again, beggars can't be choosers, I guess, at the end of the day.
I'll give you my thoughts on that. However you can get it. And that's honestly because I'm sitting here, and I'll keep going back to the Chargers. Where was the NFL to have San Diego's back? Where was the league that, where was Dean Spanos to have San Diego's back? Everybody turned their back on San Diego, and who's benefiting from it? A market that doesn't need any more franchises. So it's very difficult for me to sit here and try to, yes, an expansion would be great. I don't care how you get it. And again, I don't want to see the downfall of others in order for you to succeed, but I've also watched the downfall of San Diego to see others succeed who don't even care about the franchise that they got.
Let me ask you this, because I've had these conversations. I don't even know how we got here, but we'll get back to the Padres at 5 p.m. There's a belief in the NFL.
Can I tell you how we got here?
How did we get here? The OKC, because we both went to Thunder games.
But it was back to your wife.
It was
watching the Thunder.
Watching
this is hilarious.
Everything goes back to Kristen watching the Thunder. Yep. But you've heard this for the last decade. The NFL is considered expanding to Europe. Maybe they'll put a franchise or two in London. And if they are, would they put one in Paris and Madrid and have a division? Or could the NFL expand beyond 32 because all they want to do is create money and that would create more revenue? I will draw another hard line here. If they go from 32 to 36 and you've got deserving cities, San Diego, San Antonio, St. Louis, there's others.
San Diego's on the top of that list. It has to be on the top of that list, period.
Again, stadium's a factor, but hear me out. So if you say, hey, we're going to expand and we're adding 2 franchises in London and 1 in Paris and 1 in Barcelona, isn't that great? I'd be like, well, hold on. There's deserving. This is an American game that has been played here for forever. You have people as passionate as anywhere in the world about their sport right here in America when it comes to the NFL. And we're going to go just kind of force it on Madrid and London as opposed to just put the thing in San Diego where it was for 60 years. Couldn't you see that happening, by the way?
You sent me an article earlier today, and whether we get to it today or we don't, but it was about March Madness.
Yep.
And at the end of the bottom line of that conversation and argument just came down to, what are more ways to be greedy and create revenue? And if the NFL says, we know what makes sense from like, this is the right thing to do, versus, can we just make a little bit more money? They're going to take can we just make a little bit more money? And that, unfortunately, I think is kind of the foundation of a lot of these leagues. They don't care how that money is being made. Just make the freaking money. And if that means it doesn't make sense for certain cities, or a city got jaded or this, or like you said, why don't you spend more of your attention on expanding within the country? They will say, yeah, but you know what? We a little bigger check over there in Europe.
Even to the point, though, my final point on this is like, even to the point where like, hey, let's play neutral site games in Barcelona and in Sydney and Mexico City. I'm like, why don't you play neutral site games in San Diego? Now, I don't know if San Diegans want that, but why don't you play neutral site games in San Antonio? Mm-hmm. And again, I don't know if San Antonians want that, but I'm just telling you that not everything has to always be, well, let's go 7,000 miles. Mm-hmm. Do they even want it? Was anyone in Sydney like, man, if I could just watch the Falcons and the Packers this year?
I'm with you. I'm with you on that. Yeah. I mean, every time they play internationally too, or they're in Europe or something like that, I'm never getting up for those games. I don't care. But listen, I know the NFL is king, and I still watch. I mean, I'll watch some of these key games and everything else. But I wouldn't be lying to you if I didn't say they ripped a big chunk of my heart out to where I have some disdain in the NFL as well. And I have some, and listen, maybe in the city of San Diego, there's still a ton of people that watch the NFL. That's fine. Maybe there's a ton of people that are still watching Charger games. But if you are, I have a difficult time understanding it. We can have that conversation another day. But yeah, at the end of the day, I think you and I both know that they're not going to do what's right. They're going to do what's profitable, or how they can make they just make a little bit more money. They're going to make it
100%. All right, we'll get back to the good, bad, and ugly of the Padres through the first week of the regular season. Plus, we'll give away a family 4-pack of tickets to Sesame Place in the 5 o'clock hour, here until 6 on Schaefer and Sliwa, San Diego Sports 760, live on the iHeartRadio app.
This report is sponsored by Anderson Plumbing, Heating, and Air. The Padres are off today. They'll start a weekend series tomorrow in Boston against the Red Sox. First pitch is set for 11:10 in the morning. It's going to be Michael King going for the Padres and Sonny Gray going for the Sox. In other baseball news, the Pirates have called up Connor Griffin. He is the #1 prospect in all of Major League Baseball ahead of their home opener against the Orioles tomorrow. At 19, Griffin, who is expected to be their starting shortstop, would be the first teenage position player to debut in the league since Juan Soto did it in 2018. And tonight, of course, we have Lakers basketball on San Diego Sports 760 when they take on OKC. Our pregame coverage will begin at 6:15, and the tip will be at 6:30. Choosing the right home service company isn't just about fixing what's broken. It's about trusting who's in your home. That's why homeowners count on Anderson for friendly professional service that keeps everything running right. Visit AndersonPHA.com.
It's Schaefer and Sliwa. John Schaefer.
When you think about the city of San Diego, some of the worst ownership groups with the Clippers situation, with the Chargers situation, even the Padres ownership history hasn't always been smooth sailing.
San Diego's own Alan Sliwa.
I felt like we went through a stage of baseball where everything was so predetermined. Why even have a manager? What's the point of having a manager?
Here's Schaefer and Sliwa.
All right, San Diego and Southern California, final hour. Schaefer and Sliwa, San Diego Sports 760. Phone lines open, 877-767-4760. You can text us, 70470. Start it with the word team. And this hour, we give away a family 4-pack of tickets to Sesame Place here in San Diego. Alan, before we get back to the good, bad, and ugly of the Padres, there were some comments in our chat about Craig Stammen and I guess his first week on the job, so to speak, as a major league manager. And again, we are on YouTube. You can find us just by searching for Schaefer and Sliwa. Anything that stuck out from our viewers regarding that conversation?
I got a couple here. Yeah. And as John just mentioned, obviously, if you guys want to watch us, a lot of the shows now all are on YouTube. Schaefer and Sliwa on YouTube. Be active in the comments as well. It's such a great, John, you and I do so much YouTube, and for other things that we're doing, and you're obviously doing it for the show as well. Comments on YouTube can be such great, jumping off points. They can start conversations. They're equivalent of a phone call for a little bit more of an old school. So please be active in there, and we'll try to get to them. I saw something a little bit earlier in the show that I wanted to come back to. So Johnny Pistol on YouTube says it's frustrating having to it's frustrating having to go back to training wheels with a manager with an established aging core. It feels counterproductive. I don't know how you felt when they were looking for a manager and that entire conversation was going on. What are they going to do? What it's going to look like? Who are they going to go after? And the one thing for me that always stood out, I think we've even had some conversations about it as well. You guys would have me on the show. Give me somebody that knows how to win now. Give me somebody that's had success in the past. They didn't go that route. So that's why there's also this magnifying glass. I agree with Johnny saying here that, and we're going to find out whether he's a good manager or not. And by the way, he can be a manager for the Padres for 3 years, not have success here, go somewhere else and have success there. I mean, there's no way of determining whether he's going to be successful as the Padres or whether he's going to be a good manager 15 years from now. But I think it's a good point of you're built to win today. I don't know what the future looks like for the Padres. Based on some of the contracts that they have, I don't feel very good about it. Now, we'll see what happens, and we'll see how productive some of these high-paid players are going to be 2 years from now, 4 years from now, 6 years from now. That's how long you have some of these guys. I think it's a valid point. When you bring in somebody, I don't care his relationship with Manny Machado. I don't care about his relationship with the players. I'm not saying that's not important. I don't need my manager to be buddies with the stars. I need somebody that knows what he's doing. I need somebody that's been in every situation that you could think of. And, obviously, if you can get a manager that's had postseason success, that's great. That's not Craig Stammen. So what we do from here, that's part of the 6 games in, and people are already overly critical. That has part to do with it as well.
It's interesting because they've gone like 180s from one manager to the next. Jace Tingler, no experience. Let's go with the most experienced manager in the world with Bob Melvin. Bob Melvin doesn't work out. Let's go with the guy with the in-between. Mike Schilt at that time had only managed the major leagues for 3 years, all of them successful in St. Louis.
That was the key, right? That all of them successful. So I'm
and
good
then
with
by
that.
the time he left, I would have referred to him as a veteran, experienced, successful manager. And they did the 180 with Craig Stammen. My only knock on going first-time manager with this team, to your point, I'd follow through with Johnny's point and your point. Well, hold on. You got a team built to win. So can you afford to go with the first-time manager? My specific knock on choosing Craig Stammen is he didn't even want the job. Like, he didn't want the job. He was in on the interviews before AJ Preller turned to him and said, what about throwing your hat in the ring? So, and the reason I say that is when you're not like, when you really want something, it changes the way you go about it once you have that opportunity. When you don't necessarily really want it, you're not as tied to it. Here is a man that played for 15 years in the major leagues, lives in Dayton, Ohio, has 4 children, I believe. He doesn't need this. He was already an advisor in baseball. He could work in baseball again with any organization. He is certainly comfortable in terms of what he's earned. I'm sure his family's in a comfortable situation. He spent 15 years in the major leagues. I don't think he's solely doing it for the paycheck.
Sure.
So I've made this point. I did it in the offseason. I'll make it again. When it gets tough, what pulls him in as opposed to pulls him out? And at the end of this season, it's almost like the transfer portal. Mike Schill at the end of last season is like, I'm out. Like, I'm under contract, but I'm just done with it. I'm out. Who's to say that Craig Stammen's even any different? I know he's not 60 years old like Mike Schill, but what if he says, you know what? I got my wife and kids. We're comfortable.
Sure.
This isn't necessary. I never wanted this. They asked me to do it, and I did it. But after doing this for 250 consecutive days, I think I'm fine. That's kind of my long-term concern because they've shuffled through managers. Are we so certain that even if this works out, are we even certain that he'll be back 2 years or 1 or 2 years from now? I'm definitely not.
I don't think there's no way determining that, right? So that is almost like, if that is a problem that eventually comes up down the road, then we're willing to have that conversation down the road. I think that the conversation most San Diegans or Padre fans are having today is, are we sure that's the right guy? We were talking a little bit earlier about this, and you and I were complimenting one thing about him being honest. And I had said the Mike Schilt era, and I know there were a lot of people from the media and a lot of fans that hated the Padres just lost 9-3, and he talked about, oh my God, we're just so close. We're this, that. I knew why he was doing it. And the only reason why he was doing it was because I want my players to know I got their back through the good, through the bad, it doesn't matter the situation. I got my players back.
Mm-hmm.
You got a manager right now where there's a series coming up against the Boston Red Sox. There's going to be some new nuances that you and I might jump in on Monday and say, why did he do that?
Yep.
Maybe we're not going to have that conversation with Mike Schilt or a more veteran manager, that it immediately opens it up. And I go back to the point that somebody was making on YouTube. The franchise is at a certain point where you're trying to win today. Are you sure you want somebody that's never sat in that seat leading the ship?
Yeah. I mean, well, guess what? Here's the thing. I think our collective point is like, at this point, you're just in it. There's no turning back. And then the conversation about what comes next is for another day as well.
Yeah.
And now what's going to happen is you're just going to you're putting this manager like Tony Vitello under microscopes. If it goes swimmingly well, they'll be lauded, right? And we'll forget about the fact that he's a first-time manager. Like, if there's a 14-2 stretch in here, and all of a sudden we look up and they're 30-19, I'm just making it up, and a game up in the division, then conversation is obviously going to change on Craig Stammen, but that's kind of contingent on that really, some type of successful level of play over an extended period of time. So I don't know what to say.
Can I ask you this question? This question? Because I think we all have, before a season starts or early on, there's a little bit of a, you got a little bit of a hunch how you think the season is going to go. You have your thoughts until you start watching day in and day out, and then you feel more comfortable about it. You feel more confident about it or less confident about it. Before the season started, 6 games in, what was kind of your thoughts about the upcoming season? Did you think yeah, I think the Padres are going to have a pretty decent season. I think they're going to make the playoffs. I think they're going to be in that mix. Or was it a little bit more negative, a little bit more positive? What were your thoughts?
I thought they'd be a playoff team and they'd scratch and claw to get there, and it would be a grind, like all the cliches in a roller coaster.
Yeah.
But I thought they would navigate their way to 87, 88, 89 wins because 4 of the last 6 years they made the postseason. It's been with multiple managers.
Yep.
And a manager has value, but to what extent? And they'll just figure it out. And I probably still feel that way, Alan, based on, I'm not going to change my overall opinion based on 2 series.
To me, it is, I don't put as much weight on the manager. Some of my negative thoughts come from just the players that I've watched, and will these guys step up and be the players that the Padres need them to be? That's number one. Number two, I do think the NL, it's going to be tough to make the postseason. I was going into last year, I was shocked by the 14-3 start, and I was a little surprised that they made the playoffs. But by the trade deadline, when they made all the trades they did, my thought process completely changed. Now it's like, hey, man, they might have a chance of winning the division. Hey, they might have a chance of making a deep run. Obviously, none of that happened. I think if they made the postseason this year, I wouldn't be shocked, but I'd be a little bit surprised. Like, I could see them not making it by a couple of games and not be surprised by that, right? Like, I think that's obviously very much in the cards. And then when you start the season out 2-4, you start asking yourself, well, the worst thing they could do is be 4 or 5 games below 500 by the time you get 20 games in, and hopefully they're not on that trajectory.
It's a good point. And by the way, everyone always loves the backup quarterback. So I've already seen in the chat multiple times. I see it on our text line, 70470, started with the word team. Everyone already says, well, they could have had Albert Pujols. Now, we don't know how Albert Pujols would be as a manager. He would also be a first-time manager.
I would say the same thing if it was Pujols.
Especially if they were off to the same start. But the problem is, everyone always loves the other option when things aren't going well.
Yeah.
Right? That's just how life works. But here's the thing. There is no other option. They're not hiring Albert Pujols. Craig Stammen is going nowhere. I don't care if they lose their next 4 games. You know the point. Like, he's in it for at least the 2026 season. So we should, it's like, we'll see. I don't know what to say. I'm not putting it all on Craig Stammen, but I do understand I'm going to be one of them. I'm going to be critical if it doesn't go to expectations. And guess what? My expectations for them making the postseason, and I agree with you, I could see them being a few games out heading into the year as well. But my expectations are shared by a lot of Padres fans. There's a reason there's 45,000 people there. Not because they think they're going 83-79, but because they believe they've got a playoff team in their hands, would be my guess.
Sure.
All right. We'll get back to the Padres coming up. Also, potential changes to the NCAA tournament, just days away from the Final Four. Could we see changes on the horizon for the NCAA tournament? What does it mean for SDSU? Plus, we're giving away tickets to Sesame Place here on Schaefer and Sliwa, San Diego Sports 760, and live on the iHeartRadio app. All right, Schaefer and Sliwa back with you on this Thursday afternoon. We'll give away Sesame Place tickets coming up this hour here until 6 p.m. And then you can catch the Lakers at 6:15 pregame coverage. Tip-off just after 6:30. Lakers and Thunder coming up here tonight on San Diego Sports 760. So listen, at the end of the day, the off days are always interesting, Alan. I've said this in Major League Baseball. Because you can this is our jobs. People are like, it's only 6 games, relax. I understand that. I do understand that.
We have a show 5 days a week.
That's
okay?
it. And I don't think we're going crazy here.
No,
if you've listened to this station over the last 4 or 5 years, you're going to have some hot takes. But here's the thing I would say with baseball is when you play on a Wednesday afternoon and then you don't play again till Friday night. That's not the case this week, by the way. They're playing tomorrow morning. But oftentimes when you have the day game into an off day into a night game, you have 3 days to react. So if it's really good, you're saying Wednesday afternoon, Thursday afternoon, Friday afternoon, it's really good. If it's really bad, you're saying Wednesday afternoon, Thursday afternoon, Friday afternoon, it's really bad. So there's a lot of time in here to discuss it. We get it. Things are going to change. If they win 2 of the next 3, my opinion probably changes on the start. If they lose 2 of their next 3, my opinion may change again.
Can I tell you something that's funny?
That's just what this sport is. Yeah.
This is coming off a W yesterday.
This is coming off a win.
It's coming off a win with Nick Pivetta.
Right.
Coming off a win where they put up 7 runs, where they hadn't put up more than 3 runs in any game so far. So let's just flip this real quick. If they lost that game yesterday, they don't get a couple of errors to get them their first couple of runs. It is a different conversation.
Completely.
And I think, listen, yes, there's overreaction. That's very common. Yeah. That's very normal. But when you watch the product of the first 6 games and you do have a new manager and you do have a team that has, that you got some superstars that are going to be making a lot of money. You have some concerns about what the future is going to be. Naturally, I think what we're saying isn't out of the ordinary. I think what we're saying is based off of what we've seen so far. So, we'll be overanalyzing a lot. How are you with compliments? Can I compliment you real quick?
I do very well with them.
Okay. Now don't ask for too many of them. It is very, very easy to do a radio show with you. So that's my compliment to you. You make this very, very easy. So I want to throw that out to you. I just looked at the clock. I'm like, what? It's 5:20.
It's already 5:30. I know. It's funny. First of all, this has been a great first week. I've enjoyed it as well. I said to myself, or I might have said to the biggest Thunder fan on the planet, my wife, I said the thing that is amazing to me is from day one, it just felt like we could just do a show. Like there wasn't a lot to get through. I'm like, Alan's very his experience, his professionalism, his knowledge, it's already all there. So I'm like, it feels from day one like we already have been working together. And maybe that's because we've known each other, have done radio hits together.
Definitely probably has.
It's also credit to you as well because you hadn't been doing it.
I don't know if I'd go that far
in this chair.
I do appreciate that. Okay.
Yeah. Well, according to
that's enough. That's enough.
No, it's not because
now we got to start disagreeing with each other because that's also good for sports talk. Radio.
Yeah, but according to R Carino 5 in the chat, he says Alan and John are the GOAT. So I would agree. I would agree with
that's
R.
my
Carino.
burner. That's my burner. Me and KD, we got burners everywhere.
Let me ask you this: in general, do you think the NCAA tournament needs fixing?
Do I think it needs fixing?
Is 68 the right number? Are automatic qualifiers good? Do you like?
I'm going to flip this question to you a little bit because here's what happened with me and March Madness. I used to love March Madness. This is even before San Diego State started being a kind of constant in the rotation, right? I used to love March Madness. And I'd go out of my way. Everybody would joke, you got the boss button that's on there. So if your boss comes around, you're sitting in a cubicle or something, it's like, bam, all these graphs are up, but really you're watching Duke and whoever, right?
Mm-hmm.
Used to love it. Used to really look forward to it. Fill out my bracket, all that stuff. Is that still going on today? Do you think there's still that level of interest that there was 15 years ago?
I think so.
Okay. By the way, listen, and if I phased out of it, that's okay. But I'm asking that question for that reason.
My concern is the last 2 years, not the last 5. The last 2 years may have changed it because again, this idea that maybe Cinderella is dead. It's not reflected in the ratings, but there is a belief among college sports fans that Cinderella is dead. There's an article today in Yahoo from Ross Dellinger that says expansion is an inevitability. I believe most college basketball fans don't want to see it. I personally don't have an issue with it. I think mid-majors, I look at it through the lens of San Diego State. I cover them. I'm passionate about them. I'm calling their games. I think programs like San Diego State are getting squeezed. I want more opportunities to get in, not fewer. And I feel like there have been fewer in the last 10 years for mid-majors than there were the 10 years before it. Now, it goes beyond just expansion. I mean, you got the NIL and the resources. And can what San Diego State did in 2023 be replicated by either the Aztecs or anyone comparable to San Diego State in, let's say, the next 1 to 3 to 5 years? I don't know the answer to it, but I understand the impression that it's getting harder and harder for a San Diego State type run of 2023 to play out, let's say, in 2027 or 2028 or beyond.
My issue, and for those that we can just kind of, there's a conversation being had about expanding the tournament, right? It's making it's 68 now.
Yep.
4 that are in this play-in. And they're looking at 72 to 76.
Correct.
Is that what it is?
Absolutely right.
Okay, so I think to go back to your original question, do I think 68 is enough? I think 68 is enough. If you told me, well, 72 might give San Diego State a better chance of making the tournament, then I'm going to selfishly say, well, maybe 72 is the right number. If you told me 76 is the right number because it gives San Diego State another opportunity, then I'm probably going to look to expand it. But I'm going to go back to what I said. San Diego State wasn't in the tournament. My level of interest in the tournament was really, really, really low. So I don't know if I'm the person to ask about is 68 the right number, because I already feel like what college basketball used to be to me and how I used to how I used to consume the tournament, it does not have that same excitement that it once had, and I don't know if I can tell you why that is. I do wish, maybe these regular season games mean more to San Diego State because they can lose a game early on, and that could be the difference. That loss to Troy could be the difference of them making the tournament or not. Maybe that's the loss that keeps them out of it. So maybe it means more to San Diego State to win games during the season, but there's also a lot of other schools. It's like none of this really matters because you're going to make the tournament anyways.
Do you think that we'll see in the next, let's say 2 or 3 years, it doesn't have to be immediately, but let's say the next 3 years. Do you think we'll see in the next 3 years? Doesn't have to be San Diego State. Will we see San Diego State, Memphis, Utah State, maybe Gonzaga, although obviously Gonzaga has punched above its weight like San Diego State for a long, long time. Is there a program like that out there that's going to make the Final Four in the next 3 years?
I'm going to lean towards no. And I think based off of how everything works today, it really truly is just straight up finances. I mean, the teams that are out there, you mentioned something yesterday. Yeah, but Kentucky could only have 12, 15 players, whatever the number is, right? So, but some of these conferences, the deeper you go into the conference, they're going to the resources are going to be there, I think, better than some of these other schools. So I do think it takes away your chance if you are in SDSU. Now, SDSU's run, honestly, may have just been that could be a once in a lifetime run.
Sure.
And who they played, and they did take out Alabama, but
overall.
Creighton and FAU, like there were teams that it wasn't your typical Kentucky and Kansas and UCLA to get there. Granted, they did take out Alabama. But, yeah, I would lean toward maybe less of those schools that are in the mix.
What do you guys think? 70470. Start it with team or call us. 877-767-4760. We'll give away a 4-pack of tickets to Sesame Place. On the other side, getting to more of your reaction. Padres off day. Getting ready for the Red Sox tomorrow morning. It's Boston's opener. This is Schaefer and Sliwa on San Diego Sports 760 and live on the iHeartRadio app.
This report is sponsored by Mothers Against Drunk Driving. The Padres are off today, but they start a weekend series in Boston tomorrow morning against the Red Sox. It's going to be Michael King going for the Friars and Sonny Gray going for the Sox. First pitch is set for 11:10 in the morning. In other baseball news, the Pirates are calling up Connor Griffin. He's the number 1 overall prospect in all of baseball, ahead of the team's home opener tomorrow against Baltimore. At 19, Griffin, who's expected to be the starting shortstop, would be the first teenage position player to debut since Juan Soto way back in 2018. And tonight we've got Lakers basketball on San Diego Sports 760 when they take on OKC. Pregame coverage begins at 6:15 and the tip is at 6:30. For victims of drunk and drug driving, your grief is unique, but you are not alone. You always have a place at MAD. Call the 24-hour victim helpline at 877-MAD-HELP or visit mad.org.
All right, we've got a 4-pack of tickets to Sesame Place. We're giving them away in 10 minutes, so be here for that. John Schaefer, Alan Sliwa. We call it Schaefer and Sliwa on San Diego Sports 760. Here's my question for you today. If you're in trouble with the law, what is your first phone call? Who is your first phone call to? Is it a lawyer? Is it family? Is it a friend?
Probably calling my girl.
Okay, you're calling your girl, right?
Yeah.
Maybe I'd call my wife, right?
Yeah.
You probably wouldn't call the president of the United States, would you? Would you call the president of the United States?
If I can get through, sure.
Tiger Woods today reportedly, in the information that is played out publicly now, his first call.
This isn't true. This is a real story.
This is a real, actual, legitimate story. I said the same thing. I've now seen it in multiple spots.
Okay.
His first call on the scene, correct, Brent? On the scene when he had his rollover crash was to the president of the United States. Now, I don't know if it went through or not, or if he spoke with him in any capacity. I don't know what the voicemail sounds like, but he has, I don't know if he has access.
Hey, Trump, it's Tiger.
Yeah, hey,
just
down here by Mar-a-Lago.
You pick me up. Can you pick me up real quick? You hungry? Let's go grab some food.
But can you imagine it? Like, it's at ESPN.com right now.
Okay.
Tiger told the deputy, here's the direct quote, "I was just talking to the president." So was he actually, in fact, speaking with him? Did he try to speak with him? Maybe he did actually speak with the president of the United States.
Well, okay, I'm going to defend Tiger in this one. If I got that pull and I got that power, I'd lob a quick call to the president. See, what do we do from here?
Dude, can you imagine? Like, I think it's cool to have like I'm trying to think who's in my phone that I think is cool. You know what I mean? Like, I got a reporter that covers the Red Sox. Hey, I know the voice of the Orioles. Tiger Woods' phone, he's got presidents.
You're calling the voice of the Orioles.
Hey, Kevin Brown is the voice of the Orioles. Hey, Kevin, I need your help.
Oh, that's a unique story.
Is that? Yeah, it's kind of unique. It's kind of unique.
Listen, we talked about this the last couple of days. All jokes aside,
yep,
that dude needs to step away and handle his personal life. Period.
He really does.
Point blank. I mean, there's certain players out there. We talked about it. It could be a celebrity, it could be an actor, it could be a musician, things along those lines. Their level of fame is so absurd and is so stupid. They don't know what a regular life is, that their life might say, hey, I just rolled over my car. Let me lob a quick call to President Trump and go from there. Like, the man needs to just step aside, handle his personal stuff. There's nothing left in the sport of golf. I mean, listen, maybe he can't do it. I mean, a lot of people in their careers, you could work at a job for 30 years and the idea, like, that job becomes your identity. That's it. That's all you are. You are that. Tiger Woods is a golfer, and maybe Tiger Woods can't wrap it around his head that golf is done, or that other things should lay into priority over golf.
Yeah, like, I don't even know where to go in the Tiger discussion.
Go to Craig Stammen. Just go right.
I'll go right into Craig Stammen. No, I don't really have I don't even know, but I'm just looking at this article, Alan, at ESPN that says,
yeah, it's odd.
Not only does he say, I was just talking to the president, he's caught on video saying thank you so much as he hung up the phone. And yeah, I don't even know. I don't know. It is on. I hope he does get help. Just 2 weeks ago, right before we started the show, Alan, me and Brent were watching like the TGL, you know, the like made for TV golf event that's like, what is simulator golf that they play? Do you know what I'm talking about?
this like the recent league, right?
Yeah, like the indoor. It's been around for like 2 years. There's like teams like it's New York.
LA had a team first,
but it's all
and I
done
think it
in,
was
like, Florida.
against Tiger's team, wasn't it?
Yeah,
or
exactly.
whatever that is. Yeah.
Well, 2 weeks ago, you would have thought the biggest story in sports one day was ESPN saying Tiger Woods makes his return to professional golf, and I'm like, oh wow, is there a PGA Tour event this weekend? They were talking about the golf simulator. And he was out there taking swings and cuts with his buddies, like these other, PGA caliber golfers. And they're like, oh, it's Tiger's return to professional golf. And they made this out to be this huge story. Well, it's not a huge story compared to obviously what's played out here over the last couple of weeks with Tiger Woods. And I do wonder, and it's not about sports with Tiger, but we're talking to the sports audience, and what we do is talk sports. I do wonder what the other side of this even can potentially look like, or if there is some type of reckoning here when it comes to getting Tiger Woods back out on a golf course professionally at any point in the future. But that's probably for another day.
I don't know.
Yeah, I really don't know either. All right. So again, tonight we've got a lot of good NBA action. Tomorrow we've got that early start for the Padres and the Red Sox. What I like about that, this is rare, hosting Afternoon Drive in San Diego. We react to all of it, Alan, tomorrow, because the game's at 11:15 or 11:10. That game's over. We're on the air at 3.
For the post game tomorrow.
Yeah, we got you. We got you. We'll hear from Craig Stammen what he has to say. Kevin Acey, our Padres insider, will also be on the show tomorrow. We're hoping to connect with Jesse Rogers from ESPN, who works with Jeff Passan at ESPN.com. Brilliant baseball reporter. So if you're a Padres fan, you'll want to be with us tomorrow. I don't know what to expect against a Red Sox team that is 1-5. They've lost 5 consecutive games. They won on opening day in Cincinnati. They've since lost 5 consecutive games.
What does that mean to you?
No, it's like a roulette wheel to me, Alan. It's like just because it's landed on red 3 consecutive times doesn't mean it will or won't again. But it does mean they're desperate, I would say.
Here's what I was going to say. What I was going to mention is when the Giants started 0-3.
Yep.
I know it's not apples to apples. I know, but just there's something here. The Giants started 0-3, and they had 1 run through 3 games against the New York Yankees.
Right.
And here they are walking into San Diego. There is a sheer desperation for the San Francisco Giants, who also have a new manager, and everybody kind of questioned that hire. What do you mean he doesn't have MLB experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you had mentioned that there's going to be there's definitely this, it could be kind of a trap series here. The Giants are not going to score 1 run in the next 3 games against the San Diego Padres. Logan Webb is not going to have another awful start. The Giants are eventually going to win some games. Yep. And I wonder if this matchup against the Boston Red Sox has some similarities. I have not watched the Red Sox go 1-5 to start the season, but I think that concept is, I worry about that. The good thing is you got Michael King in game 1.
Yep.
I love that. And the good thing is you have Randy Vasquez in game 2, which is great. So let's kind of see how those 2 guys, what the momentum looks like after the first 2 games or the first couple of games. But there is a little bit of this trend of when the team is that bad this early on, you worry that, well, are they going to turn it around and the Padres happen to be facing them?
Right. Here's the deal. If you were covering the Red Sox today, Alan, and we just searched for the word Red Sox on social media, or did a news search of columns being written on the Red Sox,
demolished.
I mean, they're getting demolished. They haven't even played a game at home as of yet. They will play their home opener tomorrow. The lead at the Boston Globe is the unacceptable start for the Boston Red Sox, who have not yet played any of their 81 home games. None of them. Zip, zero, zilch. The story on their season has not been written to any extent other than the first 6 games of their year. And honestly,
welcome in the San Diego Padres for that first game.
And honestly, people would be saying the same thing about the Padres if they were 1-5. It would be vitriol over these 2.5 days. If they would have lost yesterday, we've made this point now repeatedly.
Yeah.
Thankfully, they did win yesterday, because I wouldn't want to have to talk about it for the last couple of days.
But we kind of did. I mean, today it kind of sounded like, and even, looking at some of the comments or calls that came in, we did this a little bit earlier in the show. Give me a good thing that's happened this year. Give me a bad thing that's happened here. Give me an ugly thing that's happened. And the way our conversation, I felt like today did not sound like a conversation of a team that won yesterday. It's more been about the overall play.
Completely agree. All right. Should we give away that family 4-pack of tickets to Sesame Place? I think we should. I think we should. All right. Because it's a 4-pack of tickets, because Sesame Place is turning 4. Caller 4, you've got a 4-pack of free tickets to Sesame Place. All you need to do is call 877-767-4760 right now. That's 877-767-4760. Call right now for a free family 4-pack of tickets to Sesame Place. Sesame Place back and turning 4. Guests are invited to a birthday bash full of laughter, hugs, and furry fun. And it's open daily now through April 5th for spring break. Families can enjoy rides, the Sesame Street Party Parade, story time with Big Bird, always a good time, and more. Get tickets at sesameplace.com. On the other side, a homecoming of sorts, beginning tomorrow at Fenway Park. We'll discuss the different legacies for this player on the other side. This is Schaefer and Sliwa, San Diego Sports 760, and live on the iHeartRadio app. Hey guys, it is Schaefer for the all-new Humboldt Casino Resort, the Players Place. You're going to love Monday Night Live. Every Monday in April, it's pedal to the metal this month. Watch your luck bloom. Every Monday this month in April, new time, 6, 7, and 8 p.m., 10 winners per drawing. Select a stem from our floral vases, and you could win $500 to $10,000 cash or the keys to a brand new 2026 Mercedes-Benz. Don't miss the pedal power, play and win. And this weekend at Humboldt, it's Easter brunch and dinner at Humboldt Casino Resort this Sunday only. Celebrate Easter in style with a feast to remember. Enjoy Humboldt 23's sumptuous brunch from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. or Tony Gwynn's exquisite dinner from 4 to 10 p.m. featuring an array of tantalizing dishes crafted from the finest ingredients. Bring family and friends for an unforgettable celebration of flavors. Reserve your table today. Make sure to get to the hotel and spa at the all-new Humboldt Casino Resort, the Players Place. At final time, Schaefer and Sliwa, San Diego Sports 760, Lakers Thunder at 6:15 pregame coverage. Tip off just after 6:30 from Oklahoma City. Maybe we've talked about this, Alan. Correct me if we have, but it dawned on me that you have a player in Xander Bogaerts that is among the most beloved players in modern Red Sox history. He is a 2-time world champion. There's not a lot of players that can say that in the history of baseball, let alone with the Boston Red Sox.
Yep.
He is a 2-time world champion. If we looked at his numbers, just his sheer numbers, they don't compare to what he's done in his first 3 seasons in San Diego. Is this season 3 for Xander in San Diego? Or season 4? I get him confused.
No, I think season 3.
Yes, because
I think season 3.
Yes, season 3 for Bogaerts in a Padres uniform. But I mean, look at what he's done as a Padre. He's kind of been.
I don't want to look.
Yeah, he's been either. That's season 4, folks.
Oh, okay.
This is season 4. He got here in 2023, and so this is his 4th season. But he's been much maligned, if not vilified, at times for his time in San Diego. And I don't know. I guess there's examples of that player. Albert Pujols, St. Louis to Anaheim comes to mind. There's obviously others, but it's fairly unique. He is going to get standing ovations this weekend at Fenway Park for his time with the Red Sox. He doesn't get standing ovations here in downtown San Diego. And it'll be interesting
to stand about.
I don't know. That's a good point.
Being honest, listen, I amongst many Padre fans, everyone wants to see his success. Xander's a very likable guy. I've never met him. Just, watching him play, he is a professional. He covers all those bases. And when he came to the San Diego Padres, a lot of people in Boston were very upset. They were upset that they didn't bring him back. Now, once I think they saw the dollar figure that he was coming to San Diego for, maybe they felt different after that. But what do you want me to tell you? I mean, he won 2 World Series in Boston. Of course you're going to give him a standing O, as you should.
Mm-hmm.
What he's done so far in San Diego, every time we talk about Xander, it's like, so what's this going to look like in a couple of years?
Right.
And that's the reality of it. So what San Diego, the Xander Bogaerts San Diego's getting is a much different Xander Bogaerts that not only won World Series in Boston, but also was very, very productive in Boston. So it's a big difference.
He finished top 5 in MVP voting.
Oh,
again, you're going back. He hit 33 home runs in a season. Like the ball went over the wall in fair territory somehow.
Yeah, that's worrisome.
How many
by the way, every time you give any of these stats, it hurts even more.
It hurt. Alan, he's hit 41 home runs in 4 seasons here. Now it's 3 seasons, and he hit 33 in a season.
All right, here's the worst part about it. But going to change?
Probably not.
I mean, that's the worst part. By the way, I don't know why I'm like whispering to myself as if I'm talking to myself because I'm so uncomfortable with the conversation about Xander Bogaerts.
Right.
But, when we talk about it's unfair to say this, but when we talk about the Padres go as Manny goes, Tatis has got to have a big year. What's Jackson Merrill going to do this season?
Mm-hmm.
Gavin Sheets has got to, off of what he was able to do last year for the Padres, can he do it again? If I'm being honest with you, it's unfair that we don't talk about Xander more and how much of a disaster that contract looks. It's just the reality of it. I mean, if I'm Manny Machado, I'm sitting back like, okay, look, I understand. Yes, I know my contract's not going to age well. You see this dude that's right behind me? I mean, obviously he could say that all day long about Xander, and it's almost like we've accepted it with Xander already.
Right. Where, it's almost, you're right. It's like there's a different set of standards. Yeah, it's not good. It's funny because the Xander Manny, they're tied to each other because when Xander got his money, Manny then kind of put his foot down that spring. It's like,
sure.
Where's my money?
Sure.
So then they doubled down, which I understand. I'm not walking away from Manny Machado either, but you now have multiple contracts that there's no world where they can age well. It's just impossible.
It all came down to this. If at any point you cash something in, that you can give every bad contract. You could tell me if the Padres had won a World Series in these last few years that they've made the playoffs, I don't care if they're bad for 20 years. And I genuinely mean that. I don't care because you'd at least got the World Series that your franchise has never had before and the city has never had before. You did not accomplish that. And it looks like you're getting further away from that opportunity to accomplish that. Looks like that window was closing more and more. For all we know, the window could have closed. For all we know, the best chance that the Padres had was 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
For all we know, that it's only going to get more difficult, or players aren't going to come through. But the Xander piece of it is that's the worst part about it. The worst part about it is we've kind of accepted it. We've accepted that, this player is not going to be reliable for you. And, of course, they shouldn't have signed. It's such an odd thing. And, I don't – this was part of the Peter Seidler, A.J. Preller. There's these gambles that you go out there, and these are, A.J. Preller, he's down to gamble. You know that. I know that. Mm-hmm. Go look at each one of these trade deadlines. He's whatever it takes, I'm going to gamble. I don't fault Peter Seidler for trying what he did. And, unfortunately, it didn't work and it didn't happen. And now you have to try to put the pieces together. I will tell you this. Let's just say, can I play out a quick scenario? And
sure.
This is probably shouldn't be doing this 5 minutes left into the show. Let's say the Padres had a really bad season.
Right.
Let's say they were 10, 15 games below 500.
Mm-hmm.
Do you start then saying to yourself, that window is done? You can't save whatever you're trying to save or whatever that you're chasing. I wonder how that would change the calculus for the front office, and by that time, new ownership. If you start looking at, there's a big difference between we still got a shot at making the playoffs versus I think that window is closed. Hopefully we don't run into that, but that can happen.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of those paths I don't necessarily want to cross.
I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think it's going to happen.
Most organizations at some point cross that path. Like, it's very rare, specifically in baseball, to maintain a level of contention, whatever that looks like, and do it, over a 5 or 10 year period with regularity. Like, outside of a few of these franchises, there's often a dip and then a return. I mean, the rebuild, so to speak. And to your point, we both agree. I don't think we're there, but there is a belief that the Padres organization at some point will eventually get there.
Sure.
Because there have been people saying, remember, all these deals signed even under Peter Seidler. Is this sustainable? The S word. Is there a sustainability? This isn't sustainable. That's what you heard from baseball writers and pundits. They've put it off for a good amount of time. They've won to the level of getting them to the postseason. Will they continue?
And by the way, that's all. That's if you're a Padre fan, all you care about, just make the playoffs. Anything can happen.
Yeah, exactly.
And if there's any sport that's the case, that is the case. And obviously for San Diego, that's what you're hoping for.
We'll talk more about it tomorrow. And again, full reaction, post-game reaction to the Padres and Red Sox series opener from Fenway Park. It's the home opener for Boston. It's tomorrow morning. We'll react to it at 3 p.m. here on Schaefer and Sliwa. Alan,
thank you, buddy.
My friend.
Good
we'll
stuff.
See you tomorrow, all right? All right, for Brent Sperry and Alan Sliwa. Again, I'm John Schaefer. Lakers basketball coming up tonight at 6:15, a huge one in the West. Lakers and Thunder from Oklahoma City at 6:15. Tip-off just after 6:30. This is Schaefer and Sliwa on San Diego Sports 760. We're live on the iHeartRadio app.